Hey, hey, hey.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sammy Source. This is my co host, Tayvia. And we have the one and only Joe Cunningham.
Hello.
Woohoo. Yeah. Oh, tonight is going to be such a
So,
fun show.
I gotta
I'm
mute
very
myself.
excited. So, to give you guys a little bit of backstory on why we are, in fact, here right now, me and Tavia and Joe took a class via Atlas Obscura about the art of death. And we were trying to take the class all together, but unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. Joe ended up taking the class first, and then me and Tavia ended up taking the later session. And we decided that as soon as we were done with the class and we could all come together, that we were going to have an entire episode about death and what we learned and the kind of conversations that came up. So tonight we're talking about death. Welcome.
In the dead of winter.
Yeah. Oh, the dead of winter. I see what you did there. Awesome. So yeah, everybody in the chat right now does know Mr. Joe Cunningham, who is the coolest dude on Twitch. He is a mod for Roxy Gun Project and for Risky Biscuit. And is it Axis? Who else do you mod for?
I also mod for Mandy Prater.
I'm not
and
familiar with Mandy Prater.
and an emergency mod for Human Juke. So
Cool.
Danny.
An emergency mod?
Yeah, basically.
What does that mean?
I was there really late a few nights, and all his mods were not there. And he's like, Joe, I need a mod. So he made me a mod.
That's awesome. That's actually how I became a mod for the Roxy Gun Project.
Right, yeah, when they were on the front
When
page.
they're on the front page. They're like, you and Dusty are mods. Help for the love of God. I'm like, I got it. Let's do it. Like, it was so fun. It was great. But yeah, so you're all over Twitch. You do all these things. So many people know you and love you. And it's really cool to be able to get you on with your little face and to be able to actually hear what you have to say, because I feel like the interview that we did a while back, it was so interesting. We learned so much stuff, and you have so many varied interests and so much knowledge in so many different arenas. It's like you're just like the guy behind the screen name, the mod guy, but you're so much more than that. And it's so cool to be able to get you on and give you a chance to like share more about yourself to the Twitch community. So I'm really glad you're here.
Well, yeah, I appreciate it too. I mean, it's always great to talk with both of you. I remember when Tavia was on one of your early streams, I think before even you guys got to affiliate, so it's not even in the VODs. And,
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, and that was such an interesting, discussion between two great friends. Obviously, I mean, you guys, you two know each other so well. So
yep,
we do, and we have so much
go and go and go,
so
and
much
go.
in common, and we can just talk forever. I mean, we've been living with each other for years, and we've talked about so many things, and there's never like quiet unless we're like, we're putting on a movie and we're being quiet, and then still sometimes we're talking and we're like, fuck, we don't even know what we just watched. We have to stop. We were just talking the whole time. Like we were watching the Wheel of Time,
Yeah.
and we had to start the same episode 3 times, and I was like, listen, we're not fucking talking. We're putting our phones down. We're not allowed to even touch our phones. Because then we'd be like, oh, look at this thing or whatever.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Stop talking.
Or I've been really thinking about, or this is how I'm feeling, like, have you ever thought about this one thing?
Or something in the show would be like, wow, this reminds me of this. So I was like, we're not saying a fucking word, and we're putting our phones on. We can't touch our phones. We're watching this episode because we wanted to watch it, but we just talk so much.
Yeah, 3 times. We had to watch the episode 3 times.
And you know what? I'm so glad that we made it through, because that episode was so fucking epic. It was so good. I was like, I'm so glad that we shut the fuck up and actually like watch the episode.
There's another show that's on right now. It's on Amazon Prime. I think it's leaving at the end of the month. A Discovery of Witches.
Ooh.
Which is really good.
Yeah, actually, you mentioned that in somebody's chat recently. It might have been ours, and I forgot about it until you mentioned it right now.
so we should be watching that because that sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
Is it
Yeah,
like a
so-
documentary style show, or what is it?
No. It's like Wheel of Time, and it's a whole story.
It's an epic.
It actually has, like born witches and then like vampires, and they haven't done much with this other group that they call demons, and there's like this, like separation between them, like they can't like interact with each other, and
Okay.
they have like kind of like an armistice. I don't know what you'd call it, but like the vampires and witches don't get along, and same with all the others. So
That sounds
it's
kind of
it's pretty
interesting. Wow,
interesting.
that sounds
Yeah.
fun. I'll have to check it out. Oh,
Yeah,
Roxy said,
it's-
"Isn't it on Shudder? Maybe not."
Maybe.
Yeah. It was. I think it
Okay.
was on Shudder. Right now I know it's on Amazon Prime, the first season, and then I decided to get AMC Plus. They had like some super end of the year special for like $12 for the whole year or something. And
Well, that sounds worthy of a watch for sure.
yeah, they have the season 3. I think starts soon, maybe this weekend. So they already have 2 seasons.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely check it out. And we'll have to put our phones down and not talk during things. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, whenever we get together, we always have really like in-depth conversations. We can just have fun. We went and picked out fish today, and we could just be silly and pick out fish. But really, like, we get into a lot of really serious shit. We talk about like the real deal life, biggest questions all the time. And I love finding other people that think on that level too, and really want to kind of dig into what is reality and what does that mean for each of us, and just trying to understand what life and death is all about. So it's really
Right.
cool because I know you also are very introspective in that kind of way. So I feel like tonight is going to be really good. We're going to have a lot of stuff to dig through. And
Me too. And talking about death is the best. It's like one of my favorite conversations to hear other people's perspectives on it. So I'm really interested, especially talking to you, to like see what you have to say about it.
yep. And then
Right.
chat too. I want to make sure that chat has the option to share their experiences and their thoughts and feelings on it too. Like, normally when we do interviews, we're not as interactive with the chat because we're trying to focus. But as far as
Right.
tonight goes, I really want to invite everybody that is listening in chat to be vocal if you want to, and share your experiences, because all of us in some way or another have had to deal with death, whether it's death of a pet, whether it's death of a family member. Sometimes it's grandma when we were 12 and we really don't, it didn't really affect us too much. But some people have had some really hard death experiences in recent times, and especially one of my friends who is in the chat right now. I feel like it's really good that they are here right now, and I really do want to hear everybody's perspectives. So, and Hallie, I'm just very glad that you have learned so much, and I think it's really profound that you are joining us today.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna hash it out, and we'll probably weave a web and see where we end
See
up.
where we
Can
go.
I ask
Yeah.
a question? I have a first question to ask then.
Yes.
I'm very curious. So, and anybody in the chat can also answer this question. I'm very curious. What was your guys' first introduction to curiosity behind death? Whether it be losing somebody, whether it be, seeing something firsthand, like what
Or a
was-
ghost. Or
yeah, what was the
something.
first thing that inspired you to really think about death and what it is and what you believe? Like, I'm very curious.
Crystal, welcome.
I guess for me, like, I remember I was fairly young. I think I was 6 or 7 when technically he's not my grandfather. He was my great uncle, but he acted like a grandfather because he's the one who raised my mom. She was orphaned when she was 3. And when he died, we went to his funeral in well, first we went to New Mexico, and then we drove out, and Dusty will know this area. We drove out to Fort Stockton, which is where he had lived for a long time. And that's where the funeral actually was. And I was too young to go like into the funeral. Because I was like a hellion as a kid. And
you start
You
tipping
weren't
over
allowed.
coffins and shit.
I just, ran up and down the aisles, and, they gave me, I guess I have like, what's it called, ADD or whatever. So you give something that's supposed to calm down somebody with ADD, and it's a stimulant for them. And so my parents gave me something to calm me down on the plane, and I was basically like wired. Anyway, so I got left in like the camper truck, and it was, as a kid I wouldn't say this, but it was hot as fuck. Like it was like being in a freaking like oven.
Oh,
and I
all
was
by
just
yourself.
confused. I didn't know what was going on. Well, me and my younger cousin.
So you
It
knew
was
that
just
there
more
was a death in the
confusion.
family, but you weren't allowed to participate in the like mourning of the whole family. 'Cause
Not
that's
in the
sucks.
actual funeral service itself, but like,
Right.
all the stuff around it, yes.
What did they tell you? Did you ask questions or were you observing?
I was just more confused. Like, I didn't really know what the hell was going on, to be honest.
Okay.
Like I remember coming home when my mom was, got the news and was bawling her eyes out in her bedroom. And I just didn't understand, why. Like, I didn't get it. So as a kid, it was really kind of shocking and confusing, and not like death. Like, what does that mean? Like as a kid, you don't really understand that's the end of somebody's life, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Did your parents open a dialogue with you about it? Like, did you ask questions, or were you not like comfortable being able to have that kind of discussion?
I don't really remember having any kind of talk like that now.
That's interesting. Like they didn't give you any kind of religious explanation or anything like that.
Oh yeah. The typical,
They're in heaven and
Okay.
Tio's in heaven, and yeah. I mean, that kind of stuff, but not like the kind of finality about it, and like, I didn't know him well, obviously, because we lived in Connecticut and he lived in New Mexico, and I probably saw him twice in my life at that point, and I was so young. I don't have really strong memories of that. So
that didn't affect you as you experiencing that loss as much as you witnessed somebody that you love experiencing that loss third hand or second hand or whatever. So
second hand,
that's
right.
an interesting way where you're like, why are you so sad? What does this mean? Without you being able to be like, oh no, my grandfather's gone, and feel that also. So I could see that being kind of confusing for a young kid to be like, I don't truly get it. So that's the very first experience that you had, like witnessing that. But what about the first experience where you really started to question? Do you remember when you started to really start pondering like the nature of death and what that means, and to kind of like dig into that in yourself?
Probably when my grandmother on my dad's side passed when I was around 10 or 11. And she had to have her leg amputated.
Whoa.
Because of diabetes. And she basically, died as a result of, that. So I remember visiting her in the hospital when she didn't have a leg. And yeah, that was a lot, more of a typical, at least for me, growing up as a Catholic, the typical kind of, funeral rites, and you have the wake, and you have the reception, you have the funeral, and, we went to the gravesite, and, I don't think that at that one, I think we left before they interred her in the ground. At my grandfather's funeral, he went down and we did the whole drop a bit of dirt on the casket kind of thing.
What's your perspective on funerals? Like, what did that do to you? How did that make you feel?
Well, it was, it was hard to see, my dad, who was a pretty together person. Like it wasn't that he wouldn't show emotion, but to see him bawling his eyes out in the front row with his sisters, it was tough. I mean,
Totally.
as a 10-year-old.
What
That's
about
very
what
nice.
about you? What was your first excuse me introduction into observing death?
I feel like I always had questions about it because I grew up in Utah, where it's very religious, right? So I always had questions about like what it meant to pass over like that. And then my mom was also a hospice worker. So she would come home and talk about, like her favorite patient dying. And she had a really hard time detaching herself from patients growing up. But when I was like, the earliest death I can remember, I was maybe like 4, and it was my grandmother. And according to everybody, we had a really special bond. I don't actually remember her. I have like little
that
glimpses, but I guess like I was her fucking favorite. It was my jam. And I remember my cousin coming into the other room, and I was actually watching Little Mermaid. I always think of my grandma when I see that movie because of it. And I was watching it, and my cousin comes in, and she's like crying and saying like grandma died. And I was kind of like, what? And I hugged her and was trying to cheer her up. And then I went in the other room and was like, what's going on? And my dad picked me up and took me over to the bed where she passed and asked if I wanted to give her a hug. And I gave her kind of like a timid hug because I was like confused. And then he's like, do you want to give her a kiss? And I was like, no. He's like, okay, and I just kind of sat there and watched everybody do it. I sat on the bed and just watched everybody do their thing. And I don't ever remember leaving the room. I just remember being in there and watching everybody be really sad. And then I actually became like consumed about what it is that happens. Because I grew up in this like religious family, and this is what I was always told. And then especially I got even more confused when I went to school and I fell in love with science. When I was younger, I was really good at science and math, which I'm not good at math anymore. That's not a thing. But that was like my favorite subjects in school. I loved science and math. And when I started learning more about like the actuality and the logistics of what it is, I remember being in church and asking all of like the church teachers like, well, this is what I heard in school. So you're telling me all these things and this is what I heard in school and now I don't know what to think. And I actually ended up getting baptized in the religion. And that day, actually, on the drive home, I told my mom I didn't want to do it anymore. And it took me down this rabbit hole of, like, what do I believe happens when you die? And, like, how do I feel about the whole situation? So I started really diving into death when I was 8. But my first death experience was, like, way before that. So I'd already been thinking about it, and I always had questions, So, but it was very early. Like, death happened really early in my life, and then it kind of just kept happening. Like, for everybody that doesn't know, like, I have had so many people in my life die in a very short amount of time, I'm very young. So it's always kind of been around, and now I have a different level of spiritual, like, personal spiritual understanding to what happens for my psyche and my sake and my beliefs, But it threw me down this rabbit hole after, like, seeing other sides of it. And then I went and experienced all different kinds of religious beliefs, and turns out I don't fully believe in anything, like I have my own thing, but when it comes to like the introduction of it, I feel like it was always a part of me. Like my whole life that I can remember, death was very prominent, especially with both my parents in the medical field. Like, it was always around.
true.
If they had a hard day, like, they'd come home and I'd be like, why are you sad, you know? And they'd be like, oh, you know, like, it's a hard job. So,
Yeah.
you know, it was always kind of around.
And throughout your teenage years, middle school and teenage years, you have experienced so many friends passing. And I've met so many people in my life, and I don't think I've ever met anybody who has experienced as much loss as you have. And a lot of that is because in Utah, a bunch of the kids were getting fucked up and, you know, like partying too hard. And it sounded like, from what you explained, that suicide ended up becoming like a trend.
Suicide was a thing, and then opiates was a thing. We had a serious, when I was growing up in Salt Lake, we had a very serious, like, opioid epidemic of all different kinds, whether it be Oxycontin or straight up heroin. Like, so many people went down that road, and it didn't end very well. And the more people I met, because I like people, so I meet lots of people, and the more people I met, the more common it was. And honestly, that's when I felt like I found a revelation with death, as like a companion in my eyes, I guess, was through losing people that were so dear to me over and over and over and over, where, like, I even swore off funerals as a teenager because I was going to one, like, every month from, like, being 13 to 14. It was, like, so many funerals.
How many
so
funerals
long.
would you anticipate that you have been to in your life? Genuinely.
Well, I've experienced way more deaths than I have funerals. But I think
then let's do a count for both. How many deaths and how many funerals?
In my life, I think that I would have probably lost, from the time I was a child until now, probably around 40 people. Some of them very close to me, some of them just people that I knew. And then, as far as funerals go, I think I went to, like, maybe 12 funerals before I was like, I'm over it. Like, I don't want to do this.
Funerals,
it's why I think they're really morbid, too. Like, I have a pretty negative connotation with the way funerals make me feel. I don't think they're wrong for everybody. It's closure. Everybody needs some level of closure, but it's not what I want. Like, I don't want to go there because they ended up traumatizing me more than helping me in the end.
Is it mainly the viewing part that traumatized you, or was
Kind
it
of just all of it.
Okay.
I would rather, like, honor somebody in a more... I don't... even the way that I practice, like, when I feel depressed, right? Like, I don't want to go about it in a way of, like, somber and sorrow. I want to be more honoring and remembering and cheerful about something like that, especially something as sacred as death, you know? Like, I feel like it's the ultimate experience, you know? Like, nobody fucking knows. We all theorize about it. It's a huge divide in humanity, always fucking has been, because it's such a mystery, and nobody knows what's gonna happen, and I think that that's epic. You know, like, it's the ultimate experience. You have no fucking idea what's going to happen until you do it.
And
everybody does it.
Everybody
Every
human that ever lives and has lived from the history of the dawn of man is born, lives a life, whether it's a 2-minute life or a 113-year life or whatever, but nobody gets out alive. Everybody has to walk through that threshold at some point, and it's so interesting that it's happened millions and millions and millions of times, and none of us can say with absolute certainty what that means after we depart.
Which I love. It's one of the reasons I love about it. But yeah, like, funerals, that's why, is I feel like it takes that away a little bit. I also see people get more scared for their surroundings. People get a little bit more conservative with how they're doing things, which is fine. It's, like, to each their own. But for me, like, it was always so hard supporting everybody in that way. You know, I've always gone to the memorials. I've always gone to, like, the celebrations of the things. Like, I still want to honor people with a community of people. And I would say the viewings had a lot to do with it. Every funeral that I went to had a viewing. And the last one I went to was with, like, my best friend of my life. And it's something I will never forget, is the way he looked in that coffin. And it's like a wax figure. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't even want to go see him. I was already traumatized from past deaths that I've seen. I didn't even want to see him, and one of my friends expressed to me that it was very important to them that I went with them. So I did, and I totally, still to this day, like, I wish that I didn't. Because that's the last memory of seeing them that I will have forever, and it fucked me up. You know? So, like, for me, it's just, it's not helpful. It does me more wrong.
Yeah, but some people,
They need it.
It's hard to
Some
believe
people
that
need it.
somebody's there
Yes.
and gone, and they have to have that, like, okay, they are here and dead, and they're
it's why it
going
became
in
a
the
part
ground.
of death culture. And honestly, I don't think I would have a problem with seeing a lifeless body if it wasn't embalmed. I think it's the embalming that fucks my head up, is because it doesn't look real. It's not their body. Lifeless bodies don't look like the person anyway because there's
Yeah.
no life in them. But at least a lifeless body still has humanity to it. Whereas I feel like I'm looking at a sculpture of somebody, but it's actually them. Like, that's really what got me, is I think it's the embalming behind it that really kind of fucked my head
I've
up.
only seen one viewing ever. In my family, Jewish culture, you don't do a viewing. So any of my family members that died, I never got to see that. But it was a friend in San Diego. Her dad passed away, and she invited us to come to the funeral, and it was a Catholic funeral, which it was the closest thing to like a Catholic mass that I had ever been to, and I was totally intrigued at like how ritualistic that the whole thing was. But yeah, they had a viewing of him, and that's the first time that I actually saw that, and it was very bizarre. It was a very bizarre thing. I had previously, before that, I had witnessed somebody pass away. I was in the room, in the hospital room, when it happened. So it's not the first time I had seen a dead person, but in that form, it was
Right.
so strange. And I didn't know him while he was alive, so I didn't know really the difference, based on like what he looked like when he was filled with life, and in that moment. But it was strange, and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. Like, I feel like
It's kind of spooky.
It's kind of, yeah. It gave me the
I will
willies a
say
little
though,
bit.
it's fucking amazing the people that like put those bodies back together. Like the last person I saw being my best friend, like he was shot. So like in my mind, there's no fucking way that they're gonna be able to come back from that. Like in the face, there's no fucking way. And they put him together so fucking well, dude. It's incredible to me. The technicians that do all the makeup for,
Right.
you know, the dead bodies in the morgues, but I personally, I don't like it as much. It kind of creeps me out a little bit. And yeah, that was the last one I went to. It was the hardest funeral I've ever gone to, and I just decided that it's not the way I wanted to process the mourning experience.
Yes.
Which was a huge decision as well, you know, because it's a very important experience, especially for a lot of the families, you know. So it's like that,
Right.
like, okay, where's the memorial, and like, what can I do to help? And I make sure to like be as present as I can. But you know, especially now, like when I lose friends, like I make sure to check up on the people that are important, you know, because like that's about what I got. You know, I want to be supportive, I want to be there, but I can't do that level of things. And honestly, like in the class we all took, like it's something that's slowly kind of being phased out as well. So I feel like it's kind of a more common emotion being expressed towards the way that funerals are being portrayed these days. Like
Sure.
the culture has changed and is actively changing.
Well, I think one thing that's notable about that is the religious communities, they're so ritualistic that they kind of know this is how we do it, and that's how it's going to be done. And maybe over time that will shift, but there's still very specific ways that, Catholics do their funerals, and Christians do their
Yeah.
funerals, and Mormons do their funerals. But there's so many unreligious people now who, don't have to worry about being burned at the stake for saying that they're not religious. So there's such a big market for alternative options.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that there is, because a lot of times, I don't know, up until not even that long ago, it was like, okay, these are your options. You're either buried or you're cremated. Those are the options. And come to find out, there's so many more options. And as far as funerals, like, you don't have to go to a funeral parlor and do this very specific thing and have everybody wearing black and make it all sad. If somebody chooses, the family is going to feel better by providing this traditional thing.
And it's a choice
then
ritual.
I get
for
that.
sure.
Yeah, but it seemed like that for so long there was not much of a choice. It was like, this is what you do, and if you lose somebody, this is what you have to do to
Right.
prove your love for this person. But I am really appreciating the fact that there is a change that's happening right now, and having more of a I hate to say it, but like a fun memorial parties, as opposed to having all the people come into either religious establishment or whatever, and then go to the cemetery, and it's like a lot more dark. Like having
See,
a
but
party.
that's the thing is like
nice.
that like instinct you had. Like I hate to say it, like it should be. It should be fun because it's really cool that these people get to pass on. Like that's the thing is it's that stigma, it's that taboo. Like it is the ultimate experience. And it's one of the reasons why I constantly tell all of my friends when I talk about my view on death is like, when I die, know that I was excited to be like going through that experience, you know? Like, don't be sad that I am dead because I'm actually really excited for when that day comes. But I do want to earn it, and I want to also honor life. There's two sides to it, you know? So I do have that, like, I am really excited. And, like, I can say, like, I can't wait, you know? But, like, I fortunately also really honor and love life as well, you know? So I'm more than happy to go through this entire experience and honor this experience the way I am going to my death experience. But, like, when I die, like, I'm stoked as fuck. So nobody be worried. Nobody, you know, be like, she was all alone. Like, it's totally fine. Like, I'm really excited about the experience, and I feel like everybody should be. I think it would
It's a unique
create...
perspective though, because there's so much fear
Yeah.
surrounding death, and
Oh
I
yeah,
love,
for sure. There's
I love
so much fear.
that, like,
I mean,
excitement.
you think about like the fact that we're having this conversation here on Twitch. And this is such a taboo subject in most of America.
Yeah.
Just talking about death is like, people get like, they'll just get up and leave. They're like, hell no. No.
It definitely makes people feel really uncomfortable a lot of times,
Right.
because you have to be faced with your own mortality, and it's a reminder that you're going to have to deal with it too. And then people get stressed out. How's it going to happen to me? And then they think about losing their loved ones, and some people just can't handle it. I had a very dear friend back in the day who completely could not handle talking about it. She couldn't handle theorizing about stuff. The whole thing made her like have panic attacks. And it was so sad to me, where I was like, we need to have a dialogue about this. Like, and I opened up more of a dialogue, and she was willing to have more talks over time. And I knew I had to be really like soft about the way
Sure.
that I brought things up. And I was trying to ease her into seeing it in a little bit of a different way. And I hope that did stick with her. I really do. But there's so much fear, and of course nobody wants to lose somebody that they love. Like, that's the scary part,
Right.
is like,
Yeah.
this person means a lot to me, and then all of a sudden they could just be gone into the ether. So, you know, there's fear, personal fear, and then there's fear of losing.
Yeah.
So some people just can't do it, and I respect it. I understand, and I
do too.
respect.
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
It's
I
an
totally
existential
understand it too.
crisis, really, you know? Like, it's scary to really imagine things being so much greater than you. And everybody, their whole lives are searching for a level of control over whatever it is. Whether it be, you know, like, wishing things were a certain way and working towards it, or whatever, you know, whether it's an ideology of control or an active attribute to control. Like, we are all searching for that level.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, to realize you literally don't have control, and we're just a spinning fucking rock in, like, this crazy mass amount of things that we have no idea what's actually out there. And we can die at any moment, and nobody knows where we're going. And, you know, like, there's meaning. We create the meaning, which is why this is beautiful, but it is also meaningless. Like, everything has a paradox, you know? So, like, it has meaning and is also meaningless, and it's that level, it's that fixation people can get that I think really is traumatizing for some people. And I also agree, I absolutely respect it, you know? But, like, the only thing I hope to do is to not remind people that they're gonna die, but, like, try to help people to understand that it's a really exciting thing. You know, it's a transition into something, you know, and I personally think that we kind of all get what we want. You know, I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way to believe in what death is. And I think that if you have a hope for what you want it to be, you you get to be that, because we just kind of go into everything, and intention is everything. So if we have an intention for the way that we want it to be, then that will be gifted, which is why my intention that I want to put out there is truth. Like, I want to, like, if it's like aliens, or if it's weird colors, or if it's literally nothing, like, I want the truth. I don't want whatever essence follows me to create whatever illusion I will be existing in next, just like I am now, to not be truth, Right. So if I am just energy and I exist in everything, so be it, like, I want truth when I die, and whatever that means. But what I do hope is that it's colorful. That's what I want. I want it to be colorful, and I want it to feel magic, so but that's the main thing, like colors, because I know there's colors that I've never even seen as a human being, like, I know that exists, and I want to be surrounded by
that's really cool. That's interesting. And I think that I want to know, Joe, as far as this concept goes, if you could have your ultimate optimal afterlife experience, what does that mean for you? And if anybody in the chat wants to answer as well, please be my guest.
Yeah, what do you want?
Honestly, I don't know that I've ever considered what my optimal is.
Now you're put on the spot, and
yeah,
you know what? You don't have to answer right now, too.
I'm more considered what, kind of what I guess believe, or what I think is going to happen.
If you got to choose, like, what dreams may come kind of thing, where we create our own experience. So I can tell mine if you want, and you can kind of ponder on it
go ahead.
For a second. Honestly, what I would love for it to be, and I have no idea if this is even an option, but I hope that it is, because it sounds awesome. I want to, like, physically be in space. Like, I want to navigate through the cosmos and fly through nebulas and go.
We're gonna be at a diner.
Check it
right?
out. Yeah.
Diner floating through the cosmos.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Drinking ghost coffee in a diner in the cosmos. Like, I would love nothing
around.
more than that. I just want to see reality for what it really is. So if I am free from the body and I am able to depart, and there's so many different dimensions, if I get to choose, I think I would love, at least for a while, at least like in the transition phase or something like that, like, shoot me into space, let's do it. I just want to fly around, and I want to bask in the glory of stars being born and dying, and glowing nebulas, and the vastness and emptiness of space. That would be, I think, my optimal, like, welcome to the death realm. Here's the fucking universe, the literal universe.
Yep.
And then from there, I don't know, interacting with other, beings or souls along the way. Like, that sounds cool too. But really, I just would not mind it being me and the universe for a bit. That sounds like a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess thinking about it a little bit, I'd love to see how other dimensions even exist. Fifth dimension, seventh, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, I still kind of can't get my little human brain around those concepts.
Nobody can. We're trying real fucking hard, but it's a tough one.
Like, we live in a 3D world, and then we have the fourth dimension of time, and so we can kind of think back, and we can pretend like we think forward, but really we're always in now. So in some ways, the fourth dimension is kind of static. It's always now to us. But what does it mean to be in the fifth? Like, what the hell? What is the fifth dimension? Like, what is it?
Have you ever done DMT? Because Tayvia went there on DMT straight up.
I'm convinced I've been there a couple times. And I will tell you, I can't even fathom it when I come back. So,
right.
But right. I am convinced that's where I've been twice, actually. And one of the times was brought to me. And then the other time I, was there and, went through a whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe it was just the drugs, like bouncing around in your brain and making you see these things. But maybe it is a legitimate tool for you to be able to just leave your fucking body and go explore these dimensions.
Yeah.
And you know what? That sounds more logical to me.
Well, and I believe it,
Really.
which makes it true to me. And that's always important,
Oh,
and that's
for
what I
sure.
mean by color too. Like, I do agree with you in a way of like exploring dimensions. But I do want to start with the universe, like Sammy, because this is all truth,
Yeah.
and then I would love to go up in the dimensions. And we're only in the third dimension, right? And they theorize about 9, and
Right.
including more, but they theorize about 9. Like, I've read a couple books that are like, there's 9, 9 dimensions, and like, that's fucking crazy. Like, even just feeling like I've gotten glimpses of the 4th and the 5th, like, it's
Well,
crazy
and
to think
I
that
think
there's
even the other way would be really fascinating, like to peer into, what 2-dimensional
oh, totally.
is there 2-dimensional life, like that we don't, you know what I mean, like that we can look at, like, does that exist? Is
Have
that
you seen
possible?
the movie Soul? You seen that
No.
movie yet? I highly recommend every single person in this chat, if you have not seen it, Joe, you must watch this movie. It's a Pixar movie
Oh,
that
okay.
came out last year or so, and it is the most profound animated film that I've ever seen in my life. And it
I'll be right back. I have to use the restroom.
okay. And it does show a potential, like, 2-dimensional beings, essentially, that they were encountering in the afterlife. And seriously, this movie, I feel like, yes, it's like, it's, for kids or whatever. And I think it's great because it will bring these concepts to children where maybe they've never even thought about these things before. But it really, it shows different dimensions, and it really makes you think about what is death and what is life and what do we want out of life and
Right.
what's in between. It's fantastic. Please put that on your list. You absolutely must check it out. Tayvia and I, she watched like the first like 5 minutes or something, and then she was like, I shut it off because we have to watch it together. Like, I can't watch this movie without you. We've got to watch it. And we were just like blown away by how profound of concepts that were brought up. And I love that now it's not as taboo as far as in the culture talking about these kind of things and bringing up different ideas and options of what it might be like in the afterlife, as opposed to, for so long, it's like, you go to heaven or you go to hell. These are the options.
Or this is it.
Yeah,
You
these
know?
are the options. Like,
I mean,
what other options could there be?
There's a fair number of people who's like, there's nothing. There is no afterlife. That it's it. That's it. You're dead. That done.
You know what's interesting, though? So I have a lot of friends that are atheist, and I've talked to a lot of them about what they mean by that. And I have found that not all of them, but a lot of them more so believe in the theory of oneness. You go back into everything. And that's still something, right?
That's still something.
That's what I've had a lot of conversations where I'm like, okay, well, what do you mean? Because if it's literally nothing, if it's just lights out, if it's black, what do you mean by that? Like, do you go back into energy? If you believe in science, like, everything is energy. So if you're going back into energy, there is something, level of consciousness in the way that we have it now doesn't mean that exists, but like, if you're going back into energy, you're still going somewhere. You're still doing something,
But some people really think that we're just brains, in a meat bag,
Right.
just walking around, and we're lucky to have this consciousness now, and then it's just done. But I don't feel like that's a fair thing to assume, considering we all are so unique and different.
Well, I mean, like you said, we don't really have. There's no consensus as to what happens afterwards, even amongst people who do believe in it. So maybe that is all there is. Maybe we are just meat bags and
Maybe we are,
chemical reactions.
but you know what? There's so much bizarre experiences, like ghost tales and people
Oh
being
yeah, I
visited by
don't
loved
personally
ones. So
believe
that
that,
kind of
but
stuff makes me be like, well, fuck. Like, entertaining the idea that there's nothing completely discredits every single person's experience that have had this kind of interaction. So for me, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna think that like all these people are just kooky and what do you call it? Not hyperventilating. That's not the right word at all. Seeing things that aren't there. I lost the word for right now. Hallucinating. That's the right word.
hallucinating.
I was like, what the fuck? I just lost the damn word.
Hyperventilating.
Yeah, I'm like hyperventilating. That's not it. Yeah, so it appears to me something is going on. Something is going on, and I can't say that I know the answers completely. Nobody can.
Right.
But I can at least observe that like something is happening where there is some kind of meshing between people that are alive and people that are dead. And it's not in every circumstance, and it's not like clockwork, and we can't predict if somebody dies, they're definitely going to come visit or whatever. So I don't really know quite what the factors are, that determines whether somebody is able to make a manifestation for somebody.
What's your theory about
or
why
whatever.
that happens?
I think that people that have more traumatic or sudden deaths have a harder time letting go. And I think people that either have a lot of love in their heart and they love their family so much that it tethers them to this earth, or some people that have a lot of hate in their heart, very extreme emotions, I think can keep people from moving wholeheartedly into whatever the next realm is. So I kind of think that might be the determining factor to some degree as to why some people stick around and some people are just like, let's roll, let's fucking go,
Right.
and you don't see them ever again. And I feel like that is kind of cool in a way if people were able to disconnect, which is why personally, whenever my time comes, I know it'd be really easy to just die in your sleep and just go. And, that's the least amount of pain, the least amount of stress. Like, sure, that sounds awesome in theory, but personally, I want a moment where I know this is what's happening. Yeah. And I want to, like, have that moment of like, realization to be like, well, fuck, here it is. Like, here I go. And I want to go wholeheartedly.
I think your openness to the experience, that will be inevitable. I think that people get lost because of their denial and wanting to admit that this is happening. And I think it's kind of why, too, like, instilling fear, like the way religion does, into people's psyches is extremely dangerous for the process of, like, the soul, is because it's that intention. That's what I mean. I think if people have intention for what they want, they can get that. But if the intention is scary, yeah, or if the intention is, that of, I'm not dying, it's fine, then they're going to get lost. And I think that's really sad.
It could happen. I mean, people don't see it coming, and all of a sudden shit happens. Like, I don't think it necessarily means that they would be trapped here forever, but no. I think that it would be so confusing to all of a sudden you're whisked away into a completely different reality. And there could very easily be that, like, no, I'm not ready. I want to take it back. I'm taking it back. Like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening? Right. And this just, like, fear and scrambling, and all they know in that moment is their earthly connections. So I could see that scrambling kind of like keeping people holding on to, like, their lifeline or whatever, or an anchor, and being, like, anchored to this earth. But I don't necessarily think that is a forever thing. And I know time is, a completely, like, bizarre construct, so I don't know how time works in that afterlife. But interestingly enough, we don't see a lot of ghosts around from, like, Neolithic times and stuff like that, like, 7,000-year-old ghosts. I don't feel like they're very common necessarily. So maybe there's this like actual recycling, physical, like, transition time. Like, a lot of the ghosts that people see is like, Victorian era, as far back, like, oh, they were wearing these fancy old outfits. So maybe 150 years or
Like
something,
your
if you
energetic
were,
structure starts to fade a little
yeah,
bit.
maybe
Okay.
it's just like, okay, you had your time, you weren't willing to let go on your own, but slowly but surely you will be kind of, your energy will be recycled back.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I
Yeah, but
mean,
there's
who knows?
also just so many more people now, right? Like if you just look at the human population from 7,000 years ago to today,
Totally.
there's just
We
that
get
many
lost.
fewer people that
It's
could die.
true.
And then there's, if you're a hunter gatherer and you die, there's no necessarily reason for somebody currently to be living anywhere near where you died. Like you might die like on the side of a cliff or something, and
Maybe.
maybe you haunt that cliff, but like no one ever goes there because
Maybe,
it's way the fuck out in the middle of nowhere, right?
but think about too, like think about just in our country, like some of the natives, and then even way far back, there was, we are living on other people's land from forever ago. So
Well,
who knows?
I
Like,
can speak to that. Like there's actually it's like a quote unquote town city on the Hopi Mesas that they basically torched. Like it's considered to be haunted, and
interesting.
the excavations revealed that it got torched like in the 1200s, and current Hopi refused to go anywhere near that
Really?
because it's like haunted by evil spirits,
Ooh, by dark stuff. That's
by dark stuff,
interesting.
because they believe that those people were basically had gone the wrong way and were messing with dark stuff while they were alive.
Ooh. Well, that begs another question too. It might not necessarily be evil ghosts, like spirits of people that were alive. If there was some kind of darkness conjuring, it could be like
Sure.
residual energy,
Yeah,
just dark
remnants.
energy, yeah, that was kind of brought into that space. It might not have anything to do with individuals at all, but who knows? 'Cause I do believe that energy exists separately from our individual little parts of it, although it's all kind of intertwined. But I personally, I believe in dark things that have never inhabited a human body before. I feel pretty confident. I can't say 100% anything, but I feel pretty confident that there's some like old, old dark things that are completely separate from our earthly realm. And I don't fuck with those things, but if people do fuck with those things, like
Right.
what's gonna happen?
Right.
Curiosity
Right.
killed the cat sometimes. And I think energy can be very strong in residual form as well. Because I've
Yeah.
been to some places where I'm like, ooh, I don't feel like there's like a mean ghost here right now, but I can feel the vibe that's like permeating from the walls and the floors. Like there's a lot of
Right.
sadness here, there's a lot of anger here, whatever. So I do think energy can kind of do its own thing sometimes as well. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that kind of stuff. Obviously, with my other avocation, I run into that kind of stuff. So
It's not fun stuff.
yeah. No,
Try to avoid
it's
that as
not.
much as possible.
Exactly. Avoid it as much as possible. But energetically, I personally can feel a difference. So
Okay. Well,
yeah.
That was a good little spiel to go on. That was
That
good.
was good.
Well, I wanted to kind of bring it back to kind of the the process of we were talking about like embalming and the wakes, the open casket, that kind of stuff. I don't know if in your class she talked about that, but I remember kind of distinctly her bringing up, at least in the U.S., that prior to the Civil War, basically embalming was rare, like very rare,
Yeah.
Yes.
and it was basically somebody died and they were in the ground within a day and a half, and it was done basically at the house. The majority of people died
Yeah.
in their homes.
Yeah.
And now what we're seeing is kind of not a seismic shift, but a really interesting shift as to how people are, quote unquote, disposing of their remains. And to me, that was really one of the more fascinating discussions that we had of all of the various options.
Totally. It's amazing.
Now,
it's awesome.
And there were so many that I never heard of. And I don't know, people in chat, there was one where you could donate your body to essentially a CSI.
Oh, the body farms
place.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, in like Virginia or something.
Yeah, the body farm. It's very interesting. That's such a cool.
Concept. And you become like a science experiment. Your body becomes a science experiment. And they look at how different decomp impacts, and so you're helping after you pass away. You're helping medical examiners and everyone else, crime scene investigators.
Yeah, this is what a body
to get
looks
more
like
information
if they're in the shade for 3 days, and this is what the
right.
Body would look like in the sun for 3 days, or in the water, or whatever. And this is the different processes that happen. I think it's very cool that people are donating their bodies to help people to understand more.
Yeah, and further medical what science happens and do all of that kind of stuff. It's amazing.
It's fantastic. So yeah, there's so many options. So either A, as we always knew, you could be buried, or you could be cremated. Those are the main things. And usually, if you're going to be buried, for the most part, they will do embalming, so that way your body can last long enough. You can choose to do closed casket and not have to do embalming. They'll just keep you in the freezer, or refrigerator or whatever, and kind of keep you fresh, and then just pop you in the ground. But back in the day, they used to just put you in the ground. They'd put you in a shroud or whatever. Or when it came to, I don't know, 1700s or whatever, they started making little coffins and stuff rather than just shrouding people. But we were able to go back into the earth at that point. And now it's transitioned where they make these concrete holes, and then they put you in a $7,000 fucking coffin with satin and all of this fucking bullshit in it.
Yeah.
And put you into this hole which is completely sealed. And I understand that in some ways because, poisoning the groundwater, we all, mercury in our teeth and shit like that, at least for some of those of us that have those old fucking fillings, and then different chemicals that we ingest or whatever. I get trying to preserve the groundwater, and I appreciate that. But we're getting so far removed from actually going back to nature. And one of the things I loved about this class that we took is them saying, you can do green burials.
Yeah.
It's not as common, and a lot of people don't realize that you can, if you want to, reach out to certain organizations, and there's organizations in every state. It's legal in every state. You just have to find out where to go, and you can do a cardboard box with your loved one, or you can wrap them in linen or whatever, and you can put them directly in the ground in very specific spaces. And that made me so happy to know that is an option. And they were saying that's an average of about $5,000 from death to being in the ground versus $20,000
right.
going through all this crazy stuff. I really loved that, and I was very shocked to find out that there was as many options and places for that. Like I did not realize. It seemed like it was one of those things like, well, back in the day you can do it, and now you have to be buried.
Yeah, right.
And apparently it is an option. So anybody that out there is interested, like if your loved one dies or if you die, like you can actually go into the ground if you know who to contact. But a lot of people don't know who to contact.
Yeah.
Somebody dies and then they're like, fuck, what do we do? You call a funeral home. They just immediately go right to that because that's all anybody knows, and everybody's sad and stressed out, and it's like they just want somebody to just handle everything. So I think the funeral industry capitalizes big time on the fact that people are grieving and they're shocked, and it's a time sensitive issue. That's the worst part. You lose somebody that you love and you don't even have time to just grieve about it.
process it.
There
Yeah.
is like important decisions that need to be made immediately, right then and there, which is why learning in this class about death doulas, and
Yes.
not only that death doulas are there to spiritually help somebody transition, which I think is amazing, but also that these death doulas help people plan out their death care options if somebody's terminal or something, you
Yeah.
know,
Right.
and rather than be like, well, when mom dies, we'll just, go to the funeral home. It's like, let's sit down and talk about here's all these options. What do you want? And we're going to make sure that everything's done the way that you want. And we're going to, figure out all of this stuff to have somebody be responsible for like giving you all of those options and all of the paperwork that makes it all legal. Like that was so fucking cool learning about death doulas and the ability for them to help support people and families while people are still alive.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
oh my God, that was so
No,
cool.
it's an amazing job. I have a couple friends that do it, and then that's something my mom got into too after hospice because she didn't like how sterile hospice was, which is something I hear from all the death doulas as well. Because you do have to actually experience hospice, or you used to actually, for a short amount of time to get certain certifications on being able to know the medical side of how to do the thing. But now they know how to teach that in classes too, and people have been able to like start organizations to be able to give certifications to other people. So that's something that's slowly being separated, is that medical side in that fashion. But
Sure.
yeah,
I wonder if
it's-
there are people that don't do the medical part of it where they're just being like death planners, essentially, like death planning services. Like, let us give you a bunch of options.
Well, there's lots
and
of
help
different
you.
ways to go about it. So, like my mom with the death doula stuff, she didn't like doing a lot of the planning. Actually, she would have rather sat next to people in their bed. Which she actually didn't end up getting to do that. She kind of phased away from death and wanted to do like birthing doula and that kind of stuff, like midwife kind of stuff instead. But when it came to like the death doula stuff, like learning about it from her and watching like her go to school for that kind of a stuff, like a thing. There's so many different facets that come in, and you can do all of them, but like people also build communities where like this person is the person that helps people transition, and this person is the person that does all the paperwork, and this person's the person that does all these things. So there's organizations that you can find that have alternative dying options that are, communities of people that are wanting to help others transition into the next realm. So, which I totally
So
wanted
cool.
to do for a little while. Specifically like the spiritual side of it, and like talking to people about like what they want and how they feel, and seeing like what it's making people feel, because I have talked to
Right.
people that have slowly transitioned as well and asked them stuff like that, like what do you think's gonna happen, and are you scared, like if you're scared, let's talk about it, like sometimes people just need somebody to listen to them, and especially with death becomes about everybody else rather than themselves. So time and time again I've seen, people slowly die where it's like they're too worried about making sure that their whole family is okay,
Right.
and that becomes
Right.
part of their process, and like that sucks, like it's not about everybody else, it's about you, but love is there. And so I understand like that side of things, but and like we talked about earlier, some people are too scared to go down that rabbit hole,
Right.
but like I'm genuinely curious, like are you afraid, and if you are, why, and like what do you think it's gonna feel like, and people should be able to talk about that on their way out, and a lot of the time it gets kind of pushed to the side because everybody else is really sad, which is not any less valid, but I do think it's important. Like everybody should have somebody to help them go through that. And I think with like the inviting that level of taboo culture into the way that we process death in the future, I think is going to extremely benefit not only the way that families and individuals experience death, but also the way that like the helpers can figure out what's going to be best for people, like going down that road I think is going to be extremely beneficial for the like ideology in death when it comes to human existence.
Agreed.
It's bonkers.
Yeah, it's interesting. I follow. There's a band called the Butcher Babies that are. They have an account here on Twitch, and one of their lead singers, she also does a lot of like art streams on their Twitch account. So she does a lot of like kind of really cool art. Anyway, so I was following her, and she just happened to mention that she was going to be interviewed for what she does on the side, which was a death doula. And this was before I took this class, and I was like, what the fuck is a death doula? Like, I had never heard the term before at all. Like, my dad and my mom both went through hospice, so that was familiar to me.
Sure.
But I had never heard the term death doula. So it was fascinating to see her interview and just kind of the how she approaches it as for herself. She doesn't believe in an afterlife. She's an atheist, and she doesn't believe there's an afterlife at all. And yet she's acting as a death doula and, putting basically so much of her love and care into these people's final moments and plans. It was really, really pretty fascinating. And then when it came up in class, we actually had somebody in class who is a death doula for her native tribe. So she's a native, I guess you could say priestess. I'm not sure what the term was, but she's also somebody who basically helps with midwifing and death doula for her tribal members.
I think it's awesome to have so many different kinds of doulas because, for an atheist that is about to pass away, they don't necessarily need somebody saying, oh, you're going to go to heaven, or you're going to go to the Great Spirit, or whatever, like they don't want, that's not comforting to people that don't believe it. So having atheist doulas,
nature,
like whatever. I feel like it takes all kinds, and finding the right death doula is super important too, because somebody that is just like, I just believe that it's going to be lights out when I go, I'd want to support that too, and be like, if that's how you feel, like
a doula consultation.
Yeah.
What do you believe? Tell me what you believe, and we'll make it happen.
Because I would be annoyed as fuck if I was dying and I didn't believe in this shit. Like for example, like if I had a Christian death doula, let's just say, I'd be like, oh my god, you're fucking killing me. Like, stop telling me these things. I don't fucking believe this shit.
You're killing me.
You're killing me. It's true. So I think it is important to have all kinds, and for people to kind of make a good choice.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
It is really cool because spiritually helping people to cross over, that's really important for people that
Never
do
even
believe
heard of that.
kind
I
of
wonder if they do stuff like that, or if it's like strictly like one or the other at this very moment. Like, I do wonder if there is some like level of like, what do you believe, and then they have a better understanding of how to talk to people and walk people through what's going on. Like, if they don't, they should. That's a fucking...
They should.
They absolutely should.
Because instead of trying to, like, get people prepared for this big journey and whatever, it could be more reflective on their life. So it could be more of, like, I'm supporting you by listening to your stories about your life, and you're reflecting on your life. And that's what matters in the moment, is like, tell me who you were, tell me all these stories. Maybe the family's heard these stories a million times and they're tired of hearing it, but you have somebody come into your life that is able to
or maybe
that.
You set up like a kind of like an interview. Like I would love to have like interviewed my grandparents and my parents when they were lucid, to get like little tidbits that, even though like we were really, my parents and I were really close, there's tons of stuff that I'm sure I had no idea that they went through, or experiences that they had.
Yeah,
that's true.
That would be great to,
And especially on your deathbed, there's some memory you might have of like something that you never even thought about until that moment.
Comes back.
Until that moment, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And you know what? Which is why I really, truly feel like we should all try our hardest to do that when people are alive, and to really have really good conversations and pick people's brains, and to listen. People have a hard time listening a lot, and especially with old people, like you're a young kid and the grandparents are old, and then you get older and they're just old people. It's like people forget. So they're in an old body now, but this is a person who went to kindergarten at one point, who had their first kiss, who
Yeah.
did all of these young people things, and just because their skin's wrinkly and they might be crotchety when they're older and don't know how to use an email or something like that, it doesn't mean that,
Yeah.
that their entire experience means that they're just an old person. Like, there's so much more information.
Like
so
both of our dads, like they're like 16-year-olds, you
Yes.
know? So it's like, it doesn't really matter. Like, you are as old as you feel and how you exist.
Yeah.
You know, but people do forget it, especially when people start to get a little more senile, and like, it is frustrating, you know? Like,
Yes.
it's so frustrating.
So doing it while people are around, talking to your loved ones and asking them questions and really getting to know the people while they're there, because anybody could drop dead at any moment.
Yep.
Anybody could get hit by a bus or have a fucking heart attack or aneurysm or some crazy thing. So we always think that we have more time. And I think we're always like, oh, I'll just call
Yeah.
grandma next week. You know, grandma might not be there next week. Why don't you ask grandma some shit, you know? Let her tell stories that I'm sure she wants to tell stories and whatever. Just a lot of people don't have as active of a listening ear. And I think just throwing it out there, I think if people tried harder to listen and ask really cool questions, I think we could learn a lot from the elders.
Yeah.
You know,
And
then
everyone wants to be heard too, especially when you get old.
That's
like,
true.
you go through a whole life of nobody listening to you, and in the end, nobody still wants to listen to you, you know? And it makes sense to you. Like,
Yeah.
even the people, honestly, so one of my first jobs was I would help my mom out at this retirement home that she was working at. And I would do night times. And I got to really bond with a lot of these people. And one of my favorite women, her name was Winifred, and she was like super senile, like didn't remember anything the next day, like just like forgot things all the time. You know, I had very many of the same conversations with her every single day, you know?
Every single day.
And she like would get so frustrated when people didn't want to hear what she had to say, and a lot of it didn't make sense, you know? But I honestly, it was one of the things that really like made me feel more comfortable with death was talking to people like her, where it's like, okay, nobody's listening to you, like, I will listen to you. Like, you tell me what you need, you tell me how you feel, and sometimes the answer is no, and that fucking sucks, you know? But, like, sometimes, like, you just have to play along sometimes, you know? Because whatever they're experiencing is just as real as what we're experiencing.
Sure.
You know? So, like, even if it doesn't make sense to you, like, they still deserve to feel content and, like, to feel like they're okay. And I would notice that a lot of the time she'd get frustrated because people would tell her that she didn't know what she was talking about, or like kind of brush her off, and people are still sensitive to the energy that you're putting out there. So even if like they're convinced by this thing, like you're not listening to what it is that they're experiencing. Sometimes it's fucking crazy, you know? Sometimes it's like random like mumblings, you know? And it's like, instead of being like, okay, whatever, or like condescending and like, okay, honey, you know, be like, oh yeah, like tell me more about that. You know, like, I don't know.
Just give people
like,
a chance, yeah, to just
yes.
get it out. Listening
It makes people
is
not feel alone.
important.
And nobody should feel alone.
You're
Right.
totally right about that. So yeah, this is a good lesson. I think everybody should reach out to somebody that is in their family or a friend,
Yep.
or whatever, somebody that you wish that you had more conversations or knew more about. Everybody should do that. That's everyone's homework. Pick somebody
Yes.
and reach out. So real quick though, I want to kind of zero back into, we were talking about alternative funerary practices, and Roxy had a question earlier that I wanted to wait until this conversation came up. She was wondering, as well as we are wondering too, that what is everybody's choice in this moment, because it could totally change. Like, what do you want upon your death? What kind of like death ritual do you actually want? Because there's so many options.
You should share yours an example first. Just saying. Because yours is one of my favorite ideologies of like what you want when you die.
Thanks.
You should totally share your
I feel silly because I've told this story a couple times here on
you
on
have.
Inspire, but I will reiterate it for anybody that might be listening who has not heard my choice. I want to have a traditional Egyptian mummification process. I want to be preserved so that eventually archaeologists can dig me up. And I think that would be so awesome to be able to give to the future, and give people the opportunity to dig me up and learn stuff about, the culture. But I want to have a traditional like sarcophagus, but I want prizes inside. I want there to be prizes. I want to do like a time capsule type of thing inside. So whenever
Like
I am
Tootsie Rolls,
excavated,
or
sounds good. Let's Twinkies. They never go bad. You know what those
Terrible
those
surprise, though. Tootsie, I'd be like, oh man, Tootsie Rolls,
Exactly.
damn
Oh, what
it.
But those like snakes in a can
it was
things.
like the only thing worse would be the candy corn. Like,
Oh yeah. Oh,
That's all it is.
Fill candy corn in all over, dude.
And the word moist all over the wall, and that's
and
it.
it probably still be fresh.
Oh, Roxy reminded
2,000
me
years.
with the rainbow wrapping. Don't forget the rainbow wrapping. You're right. So yeah, these guys know me so well. It's great. So yeah, I want to be wrapped in like fun colored rainbow linen. I want like traditional amulet and fun things and fun stones and fun little magical things like wrapped up in me. So whenever they scan me in, it'll be like magical things. And like the little like the snake in a can where you open it and it boings out, like when you're a kid or whatever. Like I
That's
want
awesome.
that kind of shit. So and then
glitter
open
bomb.
it
You
up.
gotta do a glitter bomb.
And then glitter bomb as well. I want when they
All
open
of
this
it.
shit up, it's gonna be like no other excavation that anybody has ever had ever. Never. And that's gonna be so fun. So preserve me, even though I love the concept of going back into the earth and being a tree or doing the mushroom suit or the body composting. I love all of that. And I feel like it's less waste and it's less, product goes into it and all of
Right.
that stuff. I totally support it. Although I want to be a motherfucking mummy with glitter.
Yes.
And I love archaeology so much, and I think it's so cool we get to find these bodies, and there's like mysteries that we're solving. I want to do that. I want to give to the future
Your
in a
nickname
fun
is
way.
now Glitter Mummy. I
Glitter
love calling
Mummy.
you Glitter Mummy.
That's great. Band name.
Band name.
That's awesome.
That actually is a great.
It is. It's fucking great,
Glitter
dude.
Mummy.
I might just change my Twitch handle to Glitter Mummy. It's great.
You should, dude. That's fucking funny.
But yeah, that's my thoughts. And I would like to have a small pyramid. It's not a.
It's
that
a
doesn't make sense.
circle.
Yeah, it's a circle. A pyramid-shaped tomb, little guy, and boom, sarcophagus goes in there. And there's specific grave inscriptions that I do want on the outside, and I want a plaque to say "excavate in 1,000 years." Like whenever I die, I want to be excavated in 1,000 years. So it would be like, upon this date, please open my tomb for a fun surprise. And if there are still humans in 1,000 years, which I don't know if there will be. I'm not feeling too confident in that. But in the event that
Exactly.
there
Too
are,
confident.
then I think it would be really cool. I think that would be a fun thing to leave behind. And like, how cool would that be walking through a cemetery and there's a friggin' pyramid with like
Yes.
cool shit on it? Like that
That'd be
sounds
great.
awesome. It sounds so fun. So I've always done everything to excess since I've been a kid. I never just wanted like a plain vanilla ice cream cone, I can't do it.
All the sprinkles and dipped in chocolate. And
Yes.
if there's pink white chocolate, you want the pink white chocolate.
Yeah, I want extra, everything as fun as possible. So you know what? Why would it be any different in death?
Nope.
It's not going to be. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Make it happen.
So that's my idea of what I want to happen. What do you want to happen? And then we'll go to Joe.
I don't really know as far as my body. Like, I'm not really attached to anything, but I would like to be at my own funeral. So I would like to make it old enough to recognize when I think I'm going to die, because I've had some friends that knew they were going to die before they did and, like, didn't realize that that's what it was. Nobody did until they died. And I think it would be really cool to be at my own death. And I've always said if my brain starts to decay, if I start to get delusional in any way, I would rather take my own life. It's the only reason that I would take my own life. But I would like to have my funeral while I'm still alive. And as far as my body goes, I'm not really attached to anything particularly. I honestly don't want to put anybody out and whatever's easiest, but I would love for my body to have some kind of participation in art, like no matter how it is. Because I personally use dead things for my artwork, you know? I glue them to things and whatever. So if like
Bones
pieces
and
of my
shit all the
body
time.
were like a part of art like I make, I would love it. You know, but as far as just like functionality goes, like I'm not really attached to like what happens to my body. I want it to not be a burden is what I mainly want. I don't want it to stress anybody out. What's done, I want the ritual to be for the people, not for myself. I don't care about the ritual. That is for whoever needs whatever kind of closure they want. But if I had a choice, I would love to be some kind of art. And I would love to be at my own funeral. I would love to like be like, goodbye, goodbye, you know? Like, I would love that. It would sound so fun.
Awesome. I love that you're like, I don't want to be a burden on anybody, which I totally appreciate that. And here's me, like, you better fucking mummify me. Better figure out how to make glitter bombs. Get me a goddamn sarcophagus
Which
and
is
build
fine,
me a pyramid. I'm like
'cause I'll
the
do my
biggest
best.
asshole. I have very big demands. I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
okay,
sorry.
though. I'll
Dick.
do whatever I can to make it happen, though.
Thank you.
And it might be a small pyramid
That's fine.
with parts of you in it, but we'll make it happen. We'll figure it out.
Okay. That's great. No,
I'll give
that's-
you what you want.
Thank you. At least do your best. Like, actually, it's interesting. Roxy said in the chat earlier that her mom, that was what her mom wanted as well. She wanted a traditional Egyptian mummification.
I would learn how to
know?
mummify somebody, and it would be fucking fantastic.
I love it.
I've always wanted to know.
I'm
how to
so
do that.
sorry. It's going to be very expensive. I'm going to try to, as I get older, put money into the little fund, you know, so that way I'm going to try to just have it paid for my damn self so I don't have to put anyone else out. But you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to
Cool.
figure
I got you.
out. Or I get a super cool, like, weirdo death. Actually, I don't even need that. I'm such a planner. I would plan all my own shit out and be like, here's a binder. Here it
Here's
is.
a
When I
binder.
fucking die, here's all the information, you know, that you need. All you got to do is call these people and figure out glitter bombs.
That's fine. The glitter bombs
good.
are taken care of.
Okay.
It's the mummification part
I
that
can
is
figure
going to
that
be
out.
really fun, but we totally got it. And I would love to learn how to do it. I would love to be able to do it. I think it would be awesome.
Yes. Yeah, and Hallie says it's, you know, it can feel stressful when you don't know what their preferences are. And that's super true. You have to
Absolutely.
really
That's true.
You have to just make the best decision that you can in that moment of what you think that somebody would want, and also what can be afforded at that time as well.
Yeah.
You know, like when somebody passes at a younger age, it's not something that a lot of people are prepared for to deal with.
Right,
You know? So
right.
you can only do your best. But Joe, what do you want with your
Well,
body or options, top 3 or whatever?
I did want to bring up a few of the other things that came up in our class. One of our classmates in my class, their parents, or her mother, I think, had asked to become basically the interred as a, I forget the term for it, but she's basically the start of a reef off
Oh,
of like,
Yeah.
Oh,
Off
yeah,
of
where they
the
put them in
Virgin
the
Islands.
coral.
Yeah,
where
we
they,
did
like,
learn
yeah,
about
so-
that.
Make the cement like castings and they put them in the
Right.
coral or whatever. It's not cement. What is it? What do they use?
I
Do they
think
just
I think
mix
it
it
was
with
some.
coral?
I think it was a plaster type of thing where they
Okay.
mix
it was
their
something
ashes.
that added to the coral though.
Yeah.
I feel like cement wouldn't add to it
Right,
necessarily.
right.
I think it was
Well,
something
it can
else.
grow. Like any of these things can grow on, you know, whatever that we put down. I mean, shit, coral grows on tires and shit
Yeah.
like that are in the
Right.
fucking ocean. So yeah, that's a really cool.
That
is
one
so
sounded really
neat.
cool. Another one that sounded really neat was apparently in Korea they cremate folks, or they have this concept of cremating folks, and then their ashes get compressed into a stone,
Yes.
like a jewel.
That was
Those
so
are
cool to learn
awesome.
about
That-
that.
I
That was
was like,
awesome.
What the? That's flipping cool. That's really
is.
cool. But one of my favorites is actually from a woodworking book that I have. The guy made his own coffin, and it's currently being used as a bookshelf.
I have seen similar ones to that online.
And
That's cool.
and
He made one.
he's already got everything planned out, you know, the green burial and everything else. And he's like, you know, some of his friends are like, that's really creepy, and why are you thinking about that? He's like, just like what Tayvia said, I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
Here's my coffin. I already made it for you. You know exactly what you got to do. Stuff me in the coffin.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I feel like
Dig a
it should
hole
be
and
an
stuff
early
me in the ground.
conversation that people have. We
Yeah.
should be asking people, and it should grow over time. Like, I remember one of the first people that I lost in my teenage years, something that they found was like a childhood will, which they did some of the stuff actually. Like, they had some keepsakes that they added to his coffin because it was like from his childhood, but it was when he first learned about the will concept, you know, and like made his own will as a kid, and like they did some of it, you know, and it was something that I actually have one from when I was a teenager, and at the time I wanted to be donated to science. I thought that was really cool. Or even the body museums. I would totally be down to be stripped of like my skin and my nerves exposed. Like, I thought it was really, really cool. But yeah, you know, like I feel like it's something that we should, like, that door needs to be opened up, because it's like Holly said, it's hard to do what you want to do depending on not only budget, but like what do the people want, you know? And if it's talked about throughout your entire life, you know, like, it just be part of culture to know what people want when they die.
Yeah.
You know?
But a lot of people don't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
They don't
'cause
want to
it's
think about it,
morbid,
you know?
you know?
Yeah. But
Right.
it is a really cool thing to have these conversations and for everybody to just think about, like, there's so many
So I
more
haven't-
options, like the rocks you're talking about, or diamonds or whatever. Like, most people wouldn't even think about that. It's so cool.
I haven't decided, you know, exactly what I want, but I do remember working on a cemetery here in Connecticut, and we found it was a native cemetery, and the woman was buried with a lot of copper beads around her neck, and because of the way copper salts work, it preserved like her hair and her skin
Whoa.
underneath the copper beads. So I'm like thinking, well, I don't know, maybe like a copper lined like coffin would be kind of cool.
That's a cool
not,
idea.
You know, similar to what you were mentioning, Sammy, but not in the same realm of, you know, having to get embalmed and everything else. So that it just kind of naturally
preserves
whatever, you know, meat bag thing I look like when I go.
Or a copper suit, like some kind of copper lined suit, because they have that copper like string or whatever. So they could potentially put it in kind of like a bodysuit kind of thing.
But for sure, the thing that intrigued me the most, I think, was the green burials. I'd never heard of them, and didn't realize that there's actually, like, you know, like you said, there's at least one in every state, and they're growing, and, you know, you can buy a plot now and, you know, basically already have it set up and ready to go. And that, as far as the ceremony and everything else, I'll leave that up to the living, and however they want to do it is fine with me.
That's a cool idea. I like that, where you're like, whatever my loved ones want, whatever's going to make them feel better is fantastic. Right. I just want to fucking party, man. I want people to party, and I know, of course, people are going to be sad. Everyone's always sad when you lose somebody. But I want Pink Floyd rocking. Like, we're going to rock some Pink Floyd, and I want people to just have a good time. Yeah, Pink Floyd and Tool. Fuck yeah, dude, totally. Parabola and fucking Echoes, man. Like, what more do you need?
I love that those are your two favorites from the both of them, because those are my two favorites.
I know. No, it's so awesome. Yeah,
it's so good.
Sammy's going to be the crotchety old lady saying, in my day, we used to listen to Tool.
I know. I think I'm already there.
Come here, kid.
Fucking little kids listening to bullshit. Little Peeps or whatever. Fuck you. You know, like, I think I'm already on my way, for sure. But, yeah, I don't think it would be good to have it be fun. Like you were saying, you want to be able to be present for your funeral. That would be so fun.
It would be so fun. And we'd have all the fun things, like fire spinning and fucking all the things. Like, it's going to be, like, a crazy party. It'd be so fun.
And, Joe, that's cool. You don't really care too much about what the, like, the memorial part is. You just would like to to choose some kind of after death care that really resonates with you.
No, but I don't have children, so at least I don't have any currently. I don't expect I'll have children by the time I pass. But I do have a niece, so I mean, I wouldn't mind like doing what I was saying before, which is recording little snippets of stuff that I remember, and
That.
things for her to experience through my eyes. I think that would be kind of cool. So
Yeah.
I think that would be a very cool thing to leave behind. Leave a legacy like that and the stories and stuff. I think that's really cool.
yeah,
Because it's so crazy to think about everybody's memories and experiences are gone with them. They're just gone.
Yeah.
Every single thing that a person felt or thought or whatever, if it wasn't vocalized, or even if it was vocalized, other people see things differently, so it might not even have transferred over properly. So in your own words is awesome to be able to share things and leave that for people, because it's gone. Think about, I don't know, people that died in 1812. Like, nobody knows. Like, you might be like, that was my ancestor, but that's my, like, great, 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 great grandfather. Like, what do I know
Right.
about who they were and what kind of food they liked and what their favorite thing was to do or whatever, Like, all of these things just, like, disappear over time. So it's
Yeah.
like, we keep the memory alive of people, but only as long
Right.
as we are alive and we have that memory. And then over time, we just go.
Yep.
So that's why
So
I think
I-
creative tombstones are awesome, because you can put little fun things about yourself and quotes and whatever. Leave
Totally.
a little bit of yourself behind.
my parents were really close, and I mentioned before my mom was orphaned when she was 3, and I remember after my dad passed, he passed before she did. She told me and my brothers, she's like, "I'm so pissed at your father." And we're like, "What? Why?" Because she would never like say something like that. She's like, "He got to meet my parents before me."
Uh-huh. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
She was like,
man. Oh.
That's no fair. He's gonna know them before. I'm like, Mom, you'll get there eventually, and you'll have, in our belief, the rest of eternity to get to know them. So don't sweat it. She's like, that's a good way of thinking about it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
but it
kind of
was just
cute, though. That's
a
kind of
funny,
cute. She's like,
funny
that's
way.
bullshit. He got to go.
Yeah,
Go
you got
back.
to go first. Yeah.
Lady said, she's like, I like that idea, Joe. My memorial isn't for me. It's for my family to cope and do whatever they need. So whatever, so they could do whatever helps them best and will be fine by me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in agreement there for sure. And I like Hallie's idea about maybe get cremated and then infused into a glitter bomb. That's awesome. That is a good one.
That would be hilarious.
That would be so good.
Especially if you put it, well, as a practical joker, as a as like a porch pirate, like glitter bomb, like you see on YouTube, By the way, this is my my brother or my sister-in-law or whatever, all over you, dude.
Once you're made into ashes, like there's so much that can be done with the ashes, So like
Right.
glitter, you could do the records, you could do the rocks or whatever. So like, it's kind of a cool thing to like if you have
Yeah.
to, you can be like, okay, let's do some ashes, and then we can figure out, and then you can look into
mix it in with
some
cement
other
and
things.
become like I don't know, the birth of a new for me, a new greenhouse, like the foundation of a new greenhouse. I think that would be cool.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So things are being grown like on top of
Right.
you, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. I like it. I like
And
that
eventually
whole
it'll
idea.
break down because, everything does.
Over time. It'll take a while, but over time. It
Seth
will.
Scott says it's in an Amazon box, of course. I mean, it's got to be an Amazon box. It's got to be an Amazon box.
Oh man. I like these ideas. That's one of the things that I learned from that class that was so cool is you can be as creative as you want to be. and there's so many options. There's never ending options, and just learning about like the beads, the people that were making the beads
Yeah.
in Korea, I think it was the Korean beads with the
Yeah, those
ashes.
are
Right.
I was
cool.
like, what? Like you could be made into beads? I
Right.
never thought of that in my life. That never crossed my mind. And then in this class, they were like, "Oh yeah, check it out. You could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this."
And
I'm
they
like,
could
"Oh my
add
God."
glitter, Sammy. They could
There
add
could be
glitter to the
glitter.
beads.
There could totally be
Glitter
glitter
beads.
beads. Ah! That's so freaking cool. It's such a cool thing. I love it. And then compressing into gems. I mean, even Mount St. Helens, there's a stone. I can't remember the official name of the stone, but it's a green stone that is made from the compressed ashes from Mount St. Helens. And then different volcanic ash from different places have different colors because of the different elements in it. So like, I wonder if you could mix your ashes with Mount St. Helens ashes and then smoosh that up and like make a cool gem. Like the options are endless, man. We just got to get creative. We
Exactly.
got to bust out of the box, out of the coffin, like bust out and then think about different fun things or helpful things.
Yeah.
Whether it be Body Farm or whether it be
Right.
the bodies exhibit where we're on display. Like
Yeah.
there's so many things that we can do to help either educate or give back to the earth or leave some kind of fancy cool thing behind. And there's no like right or wrong answer for anybody. It's everybody gets to choose what they want. But the funeral industry that takes advantage of people, that's the only wrong answer, I feel like, is the funeral industry being dicks. Not necessarily going and doing something traditional through the funeral industry, but they are exploiting people and it sucks. So if I could find any way for myself and my loved ones to avoid giving those people money and lining their pockets and doing something different, I think that would be great. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things to
Yeah,
to
there's
think
lots of
about.
options.
Yeah.
So it's cool. Welcome people in chat. Now you're hearing about all these things that you didn't even know. Lady though, she wants to be haunted jewelry.
I
She
know.
wants to be
I saw
haunted,
that.
and I
That was
love that.
awesome.
It's fucking great, dude. That sounds so awesome. Is it kind of like in Harry Potter, the diadem or whatever of the ghost that lives in the attic? Whatever. That's super awesome. It was a Horcrux. I want to be a Horcrux.
Yeah, there you go.
Dibs, Horcrux. Mine. It's so cool. I want to be set up at my funeral sitting in front of a Monopoly set. I love Uncle Scar. That's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, that sounds so fun.
Wow. Oh, man. That is actually pretty fun. No one has as creative a post-death wish as Chris. It's completely unpractical, but still, he seems pretty adamant. For any of you guys that don't know what Chris's death wishes are, he wants to be catapulted from a building. He just wants to be his dead body just catapulted into a group of people, and that's
love
just
it.
what he
It's
wants.
so good.
He just wants, and if he doesn't hit somebody, he wants to try again. He wants to hit somebody, and then maybe there'd be like a prize type of scenario he was talking about, like, okay, the first person to hit, you get this prize or whatever, and he just wants to be catapulted, just like. Bleh.
I'll run towards the body instead of run away from it.
yeah. That's what you gotta do. Oh man, it's so funny. It's so funny. So yeah, I love it. Even if people are only half serious about that kind of stuff, like at least thinking out of the box. There's so many options. So that
Yeah,
was one of the
there are.
biggest things that I learned from that class is how many other options that there are that I didn't even realize. So what would you guys say was the coolest or most profound thing that you learned from the class specifically? Is there anything that was brought to your attention or that you learned more about that you guys feel very, connected to? Yeah, Chris, who I land on gets the prize. Prize! I'm glad you popped in for that, Chris, just to clarify. Make sure.
Yeah, I think all those options were really kind of eye opening. There were so many. One of the ones that I had never heard of is like a water cremation
Oh,
or something like
Yeah,
that.
those are cool.
Yeah, using lye and I think just high pressure water or something.
yeah,
or I don't
aquamation,
even
I
know.
believe it's
I
called.
don't even
They
know
do
what
it
it
for
was.
pets. It's a new thing
Right.
that they've been doing for pets a lot too. So that's an option,
And
pet
it's a
owners.
lot less like energy intensive than a traditional kind of natural gas burning cremation.
Sure.
So
Yeah, the machines are expensive, so it's rare to find places that do it.
Yeah.
But it only takes a few hours, and you're completely liquefied, and then they take your bones and pulverize them. I wonder if you can be like, "Excuse me, please don't pulverize those bones. Please give me those bones. Thank you. Whole bones, please." I don't know if you can do that. But yeah, it's a cool
It is. It's
option.
really cool.
So that was one of the most like mind expanding things that you learned in that class. You were like,
yeah,
don't
well,
even
I
fucking
think
know.
all
It's
of those
crazy.
options that there were so many options, I think was the most kind of eye-opening thing for me.
Just knowing that there's more options
Right.
is pretty cool. And well, before I go to the next thing though, what do you think as your biggest thing? Because I was gonna say something that we also learned, and then I was like, don't do it.
No, honestly, that class, I felt like I had heard about all of the stuff that we had learned about, but something I thought was really cool was the speakers that had to do with the green burials specifically, and the one lady that was talking about like the lots that she's even a part of as far as putting people in. I thought that was really cool. And then learning about like what kind of like guidelines they have to follow, because there's lots of questions like, well, you know, the reason we're not supposed to do that is because of these health hazards. So like, what do we do going around that? And it's just about where people are buried is really what it is, you know. But I thought it was really cool to listen to the speakers and people's firsthand experiences when it comes to actively doing these alternative types of burial, you know. So I think it's all very interesting.
It's very cool.
Yeah, I don't know if she had the same speaker as our class, the woman who was dealing with the green burials, and how she had kind of had this long discussion with the caretaker of the cemetery where she was trying to set this up. Doesn't sound like it the same thing happened, but basically she had this like almost like a year-long discussion off and on with the caretaker of the cemetery, and he was like refusing. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. And she wanted like, you know, to have a section that didn't have raised headstones, so they could just be kind of like, you know, ground level. And then also the green burials. And she's like, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it, you know, his own mortality kind of caught up with him, but he finally changed, like kind of overnight, and approved it, and we got it set up.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
No, we didn't have that same speaker. That's cool. She was able to.
So that was really interesting.
That impact and change it. That's really cool.
So they have a whole section, I think, actually, of the instructors, her whatever university town she's in now, a cemetery there in that town. That's where they have a whole green burial section.
That's so awesome. I'm so happy that is such a great option now. I love it. It's just sad to think about how much money and how much wood goes into building all of these like fancy pants coffins and all of this resources that go into it, and then it just gets put in the ground. It's so wasteful. It's just so people can see it on display, and it's like people have this idea that, well, I can't get the cheapest one because I feel like it's dishonoring, so it's the last thing I can do for them, so I'm going to get them the best of the best,
that
you know?
brainwash of consumerism.
Yes. And it's like, it's just going in the ground forever, you know? Like, I can understand a little bit more maybe people being like, I didn't feel comfortable putting my loved one in cardboard.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't care, but I understand people being like, okay, cardboard, that's like bordering on the line of like maybe like disrespectful, you know? But like just a simple pine box or something like that, go to fucking Home Depot, get some plywood.
Yeah.
Don't even care. You know, like it's fine. I don't need a whole fancy pants crazy thing, you know? So
Except for the pyramid.
that's true. But I want to build my own sarcophagus with like plywood. It's fine, you know, and then we'll paint it up. No, it's true. But I wouldn't want somebody to get me a $10,000 coffin just
Sure,
to put in the ground that
I
is never
understand.
seen again. Touche, sir. I guess you're right. Fair enough. But yeah, it's that's really a cool story that she was able to convince that guy to allow for alternative burials.
Right.
I think over the next, I don't know, chunk of years, it's going to be a lot more common because people also are having to find ways to do things more affordably because the death industry has gotten so out of control. It's so much debt that people get put into that people are going to have to start thinking cheaper and creatively. They're going to have to because it's just exponentially getting worse and worse because they know they've got you by the balls. It's like, oh, somebody died. What are you going to do? You're going to come to me. And I'm going to upcharge you.
24 hours to decide.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of thing I think
crazy.
a lot of people don't realize is how quick that stuff happens.
Yep. So at least if somebody does have an illness or some kind of terminal disease, of course, it's really hard to watch people that you love degrade like that. So there's definitely a minus as far as that goes. But the plus is hopefully you do get to have the conversations with them and there is something understood and set up as far as what it is that they want. So, you can plan ahead rather than just like surprise, deal with it. Like that's just got to be the hardest thing. I've never had to deal with anything like that. I have never personally had to be like somebody that I was solely responsible for is figuring all of that out. The closest thing is when Dusty's dad passed unexpectedly and we had to figure that out. So I was part of the process with him, but it wasn't my decision in the end. I was just there supporting Dusty and his family and doing what they thought that he would have wanted to have.
Right.
But he was pretty descriptive. He knew exactly where he wanted to be buried, the cemetery in the little tiny town that he grew up in. And he said he wanted a bench so people could like visit him. I don't know if he said bench, but he did specifically say, I want people to come and visit me, whenever they can. And I don't remember if it was his thing or Dusty, but we actually had a tombstone made with a little bench. So people can visit him and they can feel comfortable sitting and hanging out with him, So at least we knew kind of what he wanted, but it was definitely, surprise you have to deal with this right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
So that's a toughie. Yeah, Roxy, I know you kind of know the surprise deal with it too, unfortunately. I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. So, pluses and minuses of knowing somebody's going to die versus not. I guess there's good and bad in everything.
Yeah, but even when like both my parents, I knew they were going to die. It didn't matter. I mean, like my mom, I knew, and she had told us emphatically, I want to be cremated. I want to be cremated. I want to be cremated. I don't want worms digging into my body. Ick, ick, ick. So, okay,
Fair.
Okay, Mom, no problem.
Yeah,
And so
sometimes it doesn't work out either. Like,
Right.
earlier last year, I experienced a death with my significant other, and his dad wanted to be donated to science, but the way he died, they couldn't take his body for science.
They couldn't take it.
Yeah, so it turned into this, like, that's actually how I learned about the water cremation, it was an idea everyone was thinking about, because of that. But it's one of those things where it's like, sometimes you can't get what you want, but yeah, it's totally like, it doesn't make it easier because it's coming, and it doesn't mean that even people are going to know what they want until that point comes,
Right.
So I do agree with you in that way, though. It doesn't really matter if you know that it's coming. It just kind of, it still happens, and it's still like you have to decide in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dusty had a good point based on what we're talking about with his dad. He was saying that the no will definitely made it a challenge.
Totally.
And that is
yeah.
the truest thing I've ever heard is, I think that it's so helpful for people to have a will or even just some kind of thing that they wrote out, scribbled on a piece of paper that says, these are my wishes. But apparently he had a will, but nobody could find it. And this is something I've been thinking about forever, and I have no idea why this does not exist. I'm very confused as to why there is not a will database where you can go on You can file your will, boom, 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 boom. You can have it notarized or whatever to make sure that it's legitimate. And that will, you don't need a physical piece of paper anymore. You know, like it is 2022. Why do we need to find a physical piece of paper to prove somebody's wishes? They should be able to put it into the system, the United States will database, and when someone passes away, boom, 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 you look it up by their name and their birth date, and this is what they wanted.
Should also be able to go in and edit it though too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for
they
sure.
should be able to go
you
in
can
and, like,
always
change
edit
it
until the
and-
moment of your death.
Yep.
You can make the choices.
I like that. That's great.
You know, like I do not understand because I've heard so many different things from different people where like one family member would find the will and they would hide it because they weren't getting what they wanted or whatever, you know. And it's like we shouldn't have to have a physical piece of paper that you have to dig through somebody's house to find, or give shady family members the option of taking it and fucking hiding it or throwing it away or whatever. Like, why on earth? It seems like it's not even that hard of a thing to just be able to have this database. Like, fuck, maybe I should start a company doing this where I'm actually processing people's wills and saving them into a thing. Like, maybe I could make millions of dollars by doing this because it, I think, is so fucking smart. And I have no idea why this does not exist. Like, it's fucked up. It's fucked up because then it's down to a piece of paper and then people just have to figure it out if there's no paper.
Yeah.
And it sucks because that causes fighting between family members a lot of times, or expectations or whatever.
Especially if people's beliefs are completely different, you know, like this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 6 feet under, you
Uh-huh.
know, where like the family was attached to her being in this complex with the rest of them, and he actually had to like do what she actually wanted, you know, but it wasn't written down or discussed with anybody else except for him. You know, it like can create a divide
It
in
can.
the loved ones based off of who believes what.
Totally. So these are my wishes. This is what I want done with my body when I am gone. Da 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 da. I want this family member to have this, and I want this split up like this. There's no room for like fighting or guessing what people wanted. It just makes so much sense. I mean, not everybody's going to have a will, especially young people that think they're invincible. They're probably not going to have a will, although you may as well do it. You know, if
Yeah.
there's anything that you specifically want, you may as well put it out there.
May as well do it.
You may as well. But for older folks especially, like, yo.
Yeah.
Do a will. Put all your wishes out there. Have everything, like super clear. So nobody can... nothing's up to interpretation. It's all right there. So, yeah,
Right.
maybe I'll have to do that.
I
like
mean,
Turbo
you know,
will.
we have stuff like titles to land and titles to cars, and like why
Yeah.
wouldn't we have something like that? You
No,
know,
you are so right about that. I don't know. I have no idea why nobody
I mean,
has
and
instituted
think
this.
about
It
like
seems so logical.
let's say 150 years, if you know the country's still here and we can still read the data. Imagine your descendant being able to see exactly what you put in your will. Like, you know, like you can see like census data
True.
for your, you know, ancestors,
Yeah, when you do ancestry.com, it pulls up
right?
stuff from, 1920s, what your
Right.
grandparents did or whatever. Like, that would be a really cool thing to have
Right.
on the will, so that way people could get to know people a little bit more or
Yeah.
something. That's a
What I was
good
into.
point. Yeah,
Right.
5 favorite hobbies.
that would be kind of neat.
Opinions about these
Yeah.
things and these things.
Yeah, and have an open section too, where it's not just like fill these things out, where they could write anything they want if they wanted to leave letters for their loved ones or something like that via this database, rather than worry about, there's letters in my top right drawer for you guys or whatever,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and they die in a house fire, and like,
yeah,
you know,
you're right.
I mean, how many people have died and stuff like that? You know, the
You're
house
right,
fires,
and
or
everything's up in smoke.
you know, you have those letters, and you know, God forbid you live out like in Colorado and they have those wildfires, and you know, you have your parents' letters, and boom, they're gone. Like,
You're right. But if when you file your will, you can write different pages. This is to my son, blah, 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 like,
Right.
remember that one time we did this thing? I love you forever, every time you see a shooting star, think of me, or whatever. Just little things that could be left behind in the event of any kind of emergency or whatever. This is a good idea.
It is a good idea.
I think that's good. Hey, and you know what? And it's recorded now. So if somebody stole this idea, I'll be like, listen, this is my fucking show. Listen, timestamped.
Trademarked it, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. We'll call it Wills Are Us. Come on down to Wills Are Us. We can make super cool commercials for it too.
Oh, yeah.
Make them really fun.
Do you think you're going to die soon? Maybe you need this.
Come to Wills Are Us. We got you covered.
You want people to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Like, any of you guys,
Free
I'll
glitter
give you
bomb.
guys
Yeah,
a
there
very
you go.
good deal.
And
Anybody
for the
in
price
chat.
of 2, if you buy 2 wills in one go,
Yeah.
we'll throw in a free glitter bomb.
That's funny. Oh, Joe, you turned your camera off. Oh, you're back.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
my phone is at 20%, so I only got a little bit of time before.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I'm glad we talked about that. That's a fun thing,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you guys agree, because I've been thinking about this for years and years, and on the topic of death, like, Jesus, everybody have a will, and let's do it. You guys all get a promo code. Inspired by a mystery promo code.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys get very good discount
Free
on
wills.
the service. Free will. We'll call it
Hashtag
freewill.com. But it's not free. It's not actually free. Discountwills.com. So yeah, okay, that's cool. Let's figure that out. So okay, as far as talking about more things that we learned about in the class and things that were brought up, something that I feel very strongly about is honoring the dead after they are passed in a kind of almost like ritualistic way. For example, Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. In Mexican culture and in some other cultures as well, Latin culture specifically, they have a day of the year. Actually, it's 2 days. One is for children, and then one is like, All Saints Day or whatever. And the day is to rejoice and think about all the people that we love that we have lost. And they, make sugar skulls and make little cakes, and they go decorate the graves, and they bring them offerings. And it's not a moment of sadness and wailing and grieving. It seems like a really healthy way to keep their memory alive and have it be in a fun, honoring sense. And it makes me very, very sad that in this country we do not observe anything like that. It's like when somebody dies, it's really, really sad, and we have this really whitewashed funeral type of thing, and then they're in the ground, and then get over it. Move along, you've grieved long enough, there's that whole thing about how long are you just going to be
don't
sad
even get
for?
me
You
started on that.
Move along. It sucks. It's not healthy. But I think being able to honor the dead and doing it on a yearly basis, whether it be, here, let's do it on their birthdays, or whatever day, if it was their favorite holiday, honor them that day, but to try to transition our perspectives into a way of really loving and honoring that person and the life that they lived, rather than just focusing on the fact that they're gone and the pain that came from that. I feel like it kind of takes away from the person's life when we don't give that good energy back to it, and it's just a negative connotation. We think about the person, it instantly makes us sad and cry or whatever. And of course it sucks when you lose somebody. I'm definitely not discrediting that at all, but finding a way to, in a good, healthy way, remember that person for what it is that they did, or whatever on that day, whether it's their birthday or Day of the Dead or whatever. Play the music that they used to love, or go to their favorite restaurant or whatever. Did they love bowling? Go bowling in their honor, something to keep the memory of who they were alive. So we did bring that up in the class, and why it's different in different places. And I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on that, on ways that we can honor people, and how this society has kind of squashed us doing that. So, anybody have any thoughts on that? Okay. Well, I guess I covered
I mean,
it.
I think you're right. The whole, kind of get over it thing happens. There's it kind of depends on the person, of course, but there are moments where the grief will still hit me, and it's been I think coming up on 11 years for my mom and 15 for my dad. So it doesn't ever it never goes away. Like, that was one of the things at the funeral that one of their close friends said to me was, it's not ever going to go away. There's always going to be a moment where you're like, oh, I got to call mom, or I got to call dad. And you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Damn it. And so, but yeah, I mean, I personally, I do that on their birthdays, and I actually do it on their death days too.
You do? That's great.
Yeah. So,
That's really
it's not like a full day of extravaganza, but it's always like, doing something that reminds me of them. Doing something that we used to do together that we would enjoy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's really good. I'm glad that you do practice that and try to, honor who it was,
Right.
who they were to you. But there are still those times where, like you said, it just hits you in the gut where you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
They're gone. And it's almost like you feel those feelings all over again. And you're like, oh, ouch, god damn it.
But then there's other moments where you're like, oh shit, like I can totally see like my dad saying something, about this, and a totally joking, you just like, you start laughing.
Yeah,
no one knows what the fuck you're laughing about. It's like, I know this would have struck him as hilarious.
Yeah.
Or,
No, you're right. It's that immortality where like we know these people so well that we can
bring
tell
them back to life.
Yes. Yeah.
It's that immortality. It's really cool. And you won't ever get over it. You just learn how to cope with it more, and you learn to have a better understanding of honestly just dealing. But that is kind of just it's part of all of life. That's how we learn and how we grow, is just learning to deal, and with death, it's not anything different, and it doesn't ever go away, but it's honoring that. Like, that's how you get out of the mental construct of feeling sorrow, is learning to deal. And it doesn't always have to be sad forever. You're going to miss them forever, but it doesn't have to be sad forever. Yeah. So, and it's those little pieces of immortality for sure. Like, like my best friend that died, like I see his smile in certain people often, actually. And I'm like, there it is. Like, there's that little piece, that I haven't seen in a really long time, and I can totally see it, and I don't know where it attaches or what the tie is, but it's that almost sense of like vague nostalgia, or it's that same like surreal feeling, you just like see pieces of them and everything, and you just learn to deal with it, and then you're grateful for those pieces, and the more time that goes by, you're more grateful to recognize them in everyday world than you are feeling sad. You're just grateful that they're still there in some way.
Yeah. My friend Alex, who Tayvia knows as well, Hallie also, he was a very dear friend of mine. He was my bandmate, and he passed away. But there's certain songs that I hear, and I can't ever hear them without me hearing him do it at fucking karaoke. Rock Lobster.
I was about to say that's the one.
He was the Rock Lobster fucking guy.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
And every time I hear it, I can see him flailing around on the stage and going up to people in the booths and rocking them out and singing Rock Lobster. He got so into it. And, it's cool because even though he's gone and it fucking sucks, there's that, like, good fun moments that come back. Whenever I hear Rock Lobster, I'm not thinking about all the fucked up shit that he was going through before he died and all of the drama and all of that stuff. I don't have to think about that because I just think about how fun Alex was when we were rocking out at karaoke, and that fun, like, bright spirit that he had that was just like unafraid to be himself, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like for a second I just have that like feeling of him
Yeah.
back for a minute, and it's very nice. It's nice to have those little things that we connect with people on like that, and then throughout our daily lives it's just like, oh, I wasn't thinking about Alex, but now I am. And you're just kind of like, what's up, buddy? Like, rock lobster, you know, like, we're in it. And then you move along about your day, and there you go. So I wonder if our loved ones that are gone, if they kind of get like beaconed by us when we think about them. And this is something that,
I'm sure.
like, who knows? But I think that maybe there's some kind of like emotional kind of tie there, that when we really think about people in that moment, if somehow they know that we're thinking about them too. I really hope so, because that would be a really cool way to communicate in an like energetic sense, is like hearing Rock Lobster and being like, oh, that was awesome, you know. And hopefully that energy goes up, and he's, I don't know, doing ghosty spirit stuff in some other realm, and he's just like, Rock Lobster, huh?
Maybe
Fucking
that's how
awesome.
we get songs stuck in our heads, is stuff like that. I can't get this song out of my head.
Because they're like screaming it from the afterlife down at you or something. Oh my goodness. See, Hallie knows. She said she could hear it in her head now. Yeah, and she has been present for these fine performances.
His spirit buddies are like, oh, God damn it! He's gonna be singing that song for the next like 5 million years.
Sure, it's just on repeat forever. It's actually funny because Alex, the band that he was in before we were in a band together, they were a really cool band called the Fabulous Downey Brothers, and they actually played some shows with the B-52s. They opened up for the B-52s, and him and Fred became homies, and it was like the pinnacle of success in his life. He was just like, I fucking played with the B-52s, and me and Fred, like, we're homies. Like, we have each other's numbers. Did you know that I have Fred's number?
It
was, and I was like, awesome. He loved
success it. Was that?
Ooh, actually, I'm gonna grab this photo real quick. I think it's right over here, because I have a photo of this. Is it over here?
Yep, right there.
Yes. Oh, this is great. We have visual reference. So, this, in fact, is... Okay, Alex is right here. Oh, there you go. Alex is right here, and he is hugging Fred in this photo right here. And that's the whole rest of his band. And then Fred Armisen is in the middle, which is super random. Fred Armisen happened to be at the show, so they put him in the picture too, from Portlandia. Totally weird and random. So that's pretty cool, you know? So, like, whenever we hear Rock Lobster, not only is it from the karaoke, but it's like he felt like he was so successful by having that. That was his, like, claim to fame. It was his, like, 15 minutes, you know? So it's pretty neat. And I messaged Fred on Facebook after Alex passed away, which I'm like, I don't know, B-52's guy, he might not even read it or whatever, but you know, Alex told me that they had a nice little bond there and they had chatted, so I sent Fred a message and I was like, hey, just want to let you know that our friend Alex, you know, he passed away, and I just want you to know that meeting you and playing shows with you was like the highlight of his career, and it was one of the things that made him feel the most special. So I just wanted to let you know how much it meant to him to have that. And he totally wrote me back and was like, I'm so sorry to hear it, like what happened basically. And we kind of had a little chat about it. It was really sweet and endearing that he did care enough to write back, because, you know, big famous guy, I'd be like, whatever. No, he was really kind of bummed about it, but I'm glad that I got to tell him. You know, I got to tell him, like, you really made an impact on somebody's life, and
which is all we really hope for.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, yeah. Like, what better to do is like make people's lives more awesome, you know? And I was like, good job, Fred. You did a good job. I loved it. So that was a tough one for a lot of us. To me, that was the most personal loss I think that I have experienced in my life, was the loss of Alex. He was a really good friend, and he went from being a sober guy who just drank coffee at a diner, at the diner that we worked at, to getting really roped into drugs really fast, and he declined really, really fast. And he didn't even look like the same person in the end. It was really sad. And I got to watch this decline. And we were in a band together, so we saw each other at band practice every week, and it was just like clockwork, just getting worse and worse. And I was a real good friend, and I really I did my best. I know that I did my best to try to save him.
You did.
And you can't save everybody. You can do your best to try to lead by example, and you can offer help, and you can offer support, and you can help in certain ways. But when it comes down to it,
they're the only ones that can save
they
themselves.
make their choices.
Yep.
And there's only so much that we can do. And I knew he wasn't gonna make it, and I had to like sit and think with myself. But beforehand, I was like, all right, if I got the phone call tomorrow, how am I going to feel about what I put into it and what I did? And I'm like, you know what? I have gone above and beyond, and I've done so much, and I've really tried to help. And when it comes down to it, it is his choice and it's his decision. And if I get that phone call, I know that I will feel confident that I did my best. And it fucking sucked because I got the phone call. And I was like, boy, am I glad that I worked that out in my head beforehand. I'm really glad. So I didn't feel like anything was left unsaid or unfinished business or any of that stuff, because I kind of was expecting that. It was a hard one, man.
Well, ultimately, we have to think that way about everybody always.
Yes.
It's one of the reasons why, unless there's something that affects the circumstance, I always try to end all conversations with telling people how I appreciate them and that I love them. Thank you for talking to me. Thank you for hanging out. I love you. Because that's very much on my mind all the time.
Me too.
And I've been in
Me too. You never know when the last conversation is, and I always do my best to try to tie up loose ends. I do not like unfinished business. It really stresses me out. I'm not like an anxiety person. I don't have anxiety, but something that gives me anxiety is unfinished business. If I am at odds with somebody, or if we're having a miscommunication or a disconnect or something like that, it really affects me, because I'm like, one of us could just fucking die, and then I don't want this to be left like this forever. So I really try very hard to always lead with love with people, and I try to make honorable choices all the time, so that way, if I was gone, people would hopefully think good things of me. I'm always thinking about, I could die or you could die.
Yep.
And if this is the last time that I say I love you, at least you know it,
yep.
So I think that is important, just being so aware, which a lot of people think it's really dark and macabre to think like that all the time, but I think it's really helpful. It helps you live a better life when you're that aware.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, you're really living in the moment, right? Like you're saying, I don't know what's coming up, and I don't want to leave this unsaid, or I don't want to leave this on a bad note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, for sure, that's something. I'm generally a pretty easygoing person, so having kind of things hanging over almost never happens. But when it does, it, like you said, that just drives me crazy. That's I can't take. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Well, and it can help teach you in hard situations too. Even if I, let's say I got in an argument or even just a disagreement with somebody that day, it reminds me in the moment to handle all situations where I try to be the bigger person in all circumstances, to where even if this is the last thing that's said to you, I know without a doubt that you know that I loved you. Even if it wasn't what I wanted it to be. It's why I don't say shit that I don't mean.
Yep.
It's why I don't have situations where I'm like, I hate you, get out of my life. And I'm like, never mind, I didn't mean that. I refuse to be that person, because if I said something like that and I lost somebody, that's the last thing that they heard. Even if I'm mad at you, and I'm like, this is absolutely disappointing, I say what I mean. So even if you died, at least we both knew that I actually meant that, and it was without a doubt that I loved you. Yep.
I've never understood the oh, I didn't mean it. I was just mad.
I was just angry.
Like,
yeah.
I have never said something that I didn't mean. Maybe I've been a little bit more blunt than, like candy coating. I try to candy coat when people push my buttons, then I get more blunt. But I still mean it.
You still mean
I'm
it.
just saying it in a not as nice way if I need to be fucking serious about shit, So I try to be tactful. But I'll never say anything that is just like straight up, I was just mad. And I said this thing. Like, what? No, you have to say what you mean and mean what you say. It's so important.
It is. Words are power.
Because it could be the last words you ever speak to someone.
It
You
could.
never know. And Roxy, look at how cute. Roxy says, on that
I
note,
know.
I love you all. You mean so much. It's more than words can explain.
We love you,
And we
Roxy.
love
you too, Roxy.
And we love
Well,
all of you guys. We all
I think
share
I'm going to
that.
have to go because my phone is close to powering down.
Why
so
don't you plug your phone in, Joe?
I'm nowhere near like.
We can wait. We can wait if it's a possibility. If it's not, we can totally end it.
I'm having a great talk, so I'd love to keep you
I don't
around.
even know where I couldn't reach because of where I am in the room. I can't even reach an outlet.
Shit.
So yeah, so I don't
What
think it's a
percentage are you
possibility.
on? How many percentages?
10%.
10%. Okay. Okay.
So, but it'll just like drop me. Like you already saw the like camera thing go out.
I know.
It'll just go, boop, and then I'll be
Shit.
gone. And yeah. So I'll be like mid sentence saying something, and
Okay. How about you let us know when you get to 5%? Because that's like a critical stage.
I can't see the percentage.
you
I mean, it
can't.
only shows you
You're just
the
guessing.
alert.
Oh.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
it
we
only
can,
Okay, that's okay.
We can totally end it, but we're gonna have to do this again. Is what we're gonna have to do. Because
Oh,
you're
yeah,
very
for sure.
stimulating in conversation with everything, but I love getting super deep with you for this very reason. You're like, we don't want to let you go because we don't want to stop talking to you.
I know.
So-
We love having you
I know.
around. You're
It's too bad we're on
awesome.
opposite coasts, but
God damn it.
we can do this in person.
But wait a minute. Okay, so here's the thing. You're on your cell phone, and you're not where you can plug it in, but your cell phone can go wherever you go. You can go to a plug, Joe. It's a mobile device.
Yeah, but this
It's called a mobile phone.
I know, but this is like my little like streaming. I don't know what you'd call it. Like I have this set up for video stuff, and the rest of the house is
That's fair.
Totally.
That's
Like
totally
I
fair.
respect the preference.
totally not.
Yeah, because if we just like turned a different way, that camera, you'd be like, oh shit. Like, so I totally
Yeah.
understand. I feel you on that. But
Yeah,
we have
yeah.
this lovely backdrop that's very nice and it's not cluttered and crazy. So I
Exactly. There's no clutter.
understand. Never,
What's clutter?
never. No,
Well, Joe, we love you.
Yeah, I love you guys
We
too. This is so
appreciate
much
you.
fun.
great.
I mean, who would think? Oh yeah, talking about death and end of life stuff.
This is the best
But
conversation
it's
ever.
fascinating,
Yeah.
and-
I'm
Yeah.
always down. Always.
Yeah.
No,
so-
I'm really grateful that that you took that class as well and that you wanted to have a serious conversation like this with us, because this is definitely a heavy subject, and like we talked
Right.
about, not everybody feels as comfortable,
Yeah.
but
Thank
This
you
is
for being
great.
open.
Oh
Yes.
yeah. I mean, as somebody who at one time was like, I'd really love to see what my skeleton looks like. I'd love to like study my cranium and see what it looks like.
Yeah, totally.
And
I feel it.
people even in that class were like, that's really warped, dude. I'm like, what? It would be cool, don't you think?
I think it would
Like,
be
I know
awesome.
everything that happened to me. So, like, oh yeah, I know what happened to my left ankle. So, what does that look like on the bones? Like,
That'd be awesome.
yeah.
So, Tayvia,
anyway.
when he goes, do you want to continue? We can go to one screen and continue, or do you feel like it's a good point to wrap it up? How are you feeling?
I don't care either way. I think we can wrap it up, and if we have other stuff to say, but
Okay.
like I feel a little derailed, and I feel like, okay, fine, your phone's dying. But
I'm
at the same
sorry.
time, like I totally
okay.
respect and I
was
love you,
totally
and
charged up, too. I
I'm
didn't
so happy we
expect
got
it
to sit and talk. It was a decent amount of time too. It's not like we didn't.
Yeah,
No,
it wasn't like it was.
It was good.
Yeah.
I just know that we could talk about this shit for like so many hours, So let's do it again. I think we covered a lot of good ground, and I also we want to hear about all the other cool shit that you do, because last interview we did 5.5 hours and we only touched like a quarter of the cool shit that you do and that you're into. So I love having you, and I hope that you'll come back again soon.
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
Cool.
Good.
Thanks everyone.
Yeah,
Bye everyone in
thank
chat.
you.
Really happy to have you. We're gonna set up a raid real quick. Let's see if we can just keep you on screen long enough to raid, so it's not
Okay.
just like an empty box. That would be a bummer. Hang tight for a second. Well, Fetch Bug is on. That is our
And
tradition.
she should be streaming for like a little while too, so we can get like
Yeah,
an hour
yeah,
or so of hers.
that's true.
Which will be good.
Okay. Dusty or Roxy, whoever
Raid
you want to do it.
captain.
Raid
Rock,
captain.
paper, scissors for raid captain.
I keep telling him it's a race and who can do it faster.
Okay, there you go.
So yeah, let's do Fetch, which actually is really perfect because Fetch talks about death and dying and the macabre and crime and all of these things. So she is the perfect person.
No, it's totally
to
perfect.
raid after this. It's fucking awesome.
And
Have
we
you
get to be
seen
like,
her
oh,
before,
whatever.
Joe? Do you know about Fetch
Who
Bug?
is it?
Fetch Bug.
No.
Oh, you gotta check her out.
she's
You would love her.
You would love her. Please follow her.
Yeah.
You will
I'll-
really like her. She's a mortician in training, and she talks about like supernatural stuff and just death culture in general. She's really fun too. So I think you would really enjoy her. But thank you everybody for being here in chat. I really appreciate all of you guys showing up and being here.
We love you all.
Hallie, I'm really glad that you were here too. I'm really grateful that you popped in for this. But as far as all of you guys go, we'll see you on Monday when we do weird news of the week. So thank you, Joe.
More
Yay! Look
We
at
love
Joe.
you.
Round of
Love
applause.
you too.
And if
Bye.
you can make it to a charger when you fucking sign out, go to Fetch. Watch Fetch on your bed or whatever. On your mobile
Well,
phone.
the
that
nice
you
thing
won't
is
mobilize.
my iPad has charge left because it doesn't have to like stream anything.
Well, there you go. So yeah, just
Perfect.
check her out for a second. She's so fun. But all right, we love you and we're grateful that you were here. We love you, chat, and have fun at Fetch. And we will see you guys on Monday with more weird news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
I
Do it.
don't know.
There we go.
Oh, there
We got it.
we
Okay. All right. All right. We got it. We got it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. All right. We'll talk to you soon, Joe. Thanks for coming
Okay.
on.
Yep. Bye bye.
Mwah. Bye.
Why couldn't he hear us?
Because I fucking muted the mic
Oh.
out of instinct.
Oh.
I'm a big stupid idiot.
It's like, I don't know what you're saying.
I
We're
talk
just
true
saying
crime,
things.
death and dying, the paranormal,
Oh, wait,
the occult, all things spooky. Tonight we're having a really laid back, like, death talk night. We've been talking about, we did some astrology stuff earlier. We had a birthday party for AJ. Welcome to AJ's birthday party. It is not technically AJ's birthday yet on their side of the country, but we celebrated AJ's birthday on the East Coast. So please wish AJ a happy birthday. What are y'all getting up to tonight? Thank you so much for that shout out, Glued. Thank you, my friends. Please go give Inspired by Mystery podcast a follow. They talk all the spooky nonsense that I talk. So I think you would enjoy it. If you like hanging out with me and my chaotic self, you'll enjoy Inspired by Mystery. Joe Cunningham, thank you for following. Welcome to the Nocturnal Cult. We stay up late and talk spooky stuff. It's good to have you with us. Welcome. Oh, we got another raid. Why every time, Inspired, every time you raid, I get a second raid right after. Listen, baby, thank you so much for that raid as well. Welcome in, raiders, again. I just said this for those just joining you, me. Hello. I have to say it again. Hi, welcome. My name's Fetchbug. Thank you so much for that raid. Welcome to my channel where we talk true crime, death and dying, the paranormal, the occult, all things spooky. It's so good to have you here with us. Thank you. Loser, what were you getting up to this evening? Calico. Oh my god, Calico is such a cute game. I hope you were enjoying it. Oh my goodness. I haven't played it in so long. Thank you, Nix, for that shout out. Also, go and follow Inspired by Mystery and go follow Loser Baby, please. Is it Bye Bye or BB? Is it Bye Bye or BB? I'm saying BB and I might be Bye Bye. Loser Bye Bye. As a bisexual, I feel like I should be saying bye bye, but I'm not sure. Video Nipple, good to see you. Hi. Hi, Video Nipple. Hello. Double raid, let's go. Let's go. Double raid for AJ's birthday. Gun Show, good to see you. I think I saw Dusty was here. Inspired by Mystery, of course. Hello. Oh, you were talking about death tonight too? What were y'all talking about? What about death? Gun Show, Dusty, there you are. Lady Adriel, hello, hello, hello. Dusty, okay, I saw you, I was like, oh, and Nuck and Futz. All the friends are here. All the friends are here. Okay, time out. Before we do the raid thing, I gotta go back to Moose real quick. There was no identification of the catacomb bones. Oh, okay, well, yeah. That's what I meant by they were just kind of collecting bones from the catacombs, arranging them into these saint relics and being like, yes, this is so-and-so. But yeah, I knew they weren't like actually identified. Thank you for clearing that up. Presumed by the church to be bones of early Christians. There it is. There it is. Thank you. We have foreskin. Welcome. Welcome. Okay, let me catch up with everybody and say hi to all our new friends. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I had like a million things to catch up with, and then, you know. Rage Q, hi. Bisexual crisis, constantly. Is it BB or bye-bye? I got to know. Joe was my guest, went into depth about death. Of course we're on the same topic. Of course we are. Of course we are. Loser, thank you for following. Thank you. Welcome. Oh, I'm so glad to have you with us. Thanks for joining the Nocturnal Cult. We stay up late, talk spooky things. Good to have you here. Dusty is here. Gun Show's here. I see y'all. You always bring the double raid because you're an A+ manifester, yes. Getting ready to go. GWT, get some sleep. Oh, I was like, GWT, some sleep. Let's go. Get some sleep. Nuck and Futz, I'm never allowed to go sleep, ever. But I still have another hour. So we're good. It's good to get 1 a.m. raids when I stream till 2, so I don't have to be like, no, I have to go. We're good. You're stuck with me for another hour. Twitch took forever to load. Oh no, of course it did. It's BB. Okay. It's BB. Nuck and Futz is not leaving. I am not either. Bye-fi? Bye-fi? Bye-fi. Bye-fi. I like Bye-fi. I like Bye-fi. That is fun. Would have been Loser Baby, but that was taken? Of course it was. I'm thinking again about how I used to be Fetch Betch, and now I miss Fetch Betch. A bisis? A crisis? No, a bisis. Took a class called The Art of Death, discussed all about death practices, alternative funerary practices, and so much more. Oh my god, I have to watch your VOD. You guys keep it up on the channel, right? Or do you upload it to YouTube? Like, if I watch it later, it'll be on the channel, right? Because I kind of need to see all of that. That's so cool. I'm familiar with that class. Was it through Morbid Anatomy? Loser by Beck. Oh, what a good song. Way cooler than Piss Baby. I know you have a YouTube. I'm subscribed. Nobody's allowed to leave. You're all stuck here. You all have to stay. Oh, Atlas Obscura. Okay, sorry. That was my second guess. Either Morbid Anatomy or Atlas Obscura. My good friend runs the Philadelphia chapter of Atlas Obscura. So I love Atlas Obscura. I've gotten to do some really cool stuff because of my friend. And they do have cool classes. I do a lot of my lectures through Morbid Anatomy. But I do a lot of my cool, like, exclusive tours through Atlas Obscura. Both great. Morbid Anatomy is on Instagram. I'm sure they're on other platforms as well, but Morbid Anatomy. They have a website. I know I follow them on Instagram, so I go to their link tree. There's a bunch of stuff in their link tree and their Instagram website. I love following them too because they post really cool stuff. So Morbid Anatomy, and then Atlas Obscura that website is the best. I have done some of my coolest adventures thanks to that website. And Mr. Bug and I have contributed to some of the stuff that's on Atlas Obscura, because him and I go look for weird roadside attractions all the time, and since our friend runs the Philly chapter of everything, we can be like, hey dude, we found a spot, you should add it to the website. And it happens. It happens once or twice. Bit. So that's cool.
I can lift mine up to like...
Oh, go get some cake, yeah. Cake is for here. Where is it? Here?
Yeah, it's a little sore, but it's not real bad.
Have a slice.
God damn it!
Of some bloody cake, mate.
I'm happy you don't have to experience the pain with me these times that you've had your...
Yeah, morbid anatomy and talk death daily.
It's really not.
Are my
it's
two
not
favorite.
That bad. It's a little sore.
Instagram
higher
accounts.
Up my
If you go on More Too Scary, the More Too Scary Instagram that I promise I'm gonna stop neglecting.
Like, doesn't want to
one of these days. Pretty much everyone I follow
that was
on
great.
More Too Scary, you should follow.
That was
especially the Haunted Doll Shop. And Fetchbug, she's cool. Follow Fetchbug on Instagram. Talk Death Daily, Crime Watch Daily, Ghost Adventures. You don't have to follow Ghost Adventures. And Morbid Anatomy. Really great Instagram accounts.
It's funny too that you
Danny, thank you for gifting a sub to Inspired. Yay! Yay! Enjoyed my Kirsten modes.
That's
and excuse you, Dusty. I know you're in lurk mode, but I heard that. I heard that. Oh, I'm glad to see y'all like
that. It's
them
definitely
too.
Shorter than I thought.
Check out, definitely check them out.
Which is
Twitch for 2 weeks and then you put them on YouTube. Okay. I don't put my VODs up. I should put my VODs up, but I don't put my VODs up. I gotta start doing that. I know
cool.
of Morbid Curiosity. I think I'm subscribed to them on Apple Podcasts.
Did you?
In White Center. Yeah.
How do you see library?
Oh, whoa. Of what?
I thought I was subscribed to that one. Maybe it's on YouTube or something that I have it. Or Spotify. I deleted Spotify. I'm not sure.
For $50, 3 of them.
What was
for
the lie?
$50. Okay. What's it called?
Sammy! Oh my god, Sammy, you too. You just come join us and again, gassing up. Gassing up the chat. Joe. It's my mod powers.
Can you touch your pinky to your point finger?
Stealing the fart thunder.
I can do it on one side.
I don't even know what I was Googling now. I pulled up a Google window and I don't know why.
On my right side too.
Not Shamala Hamala Harris.
Can you touch your shoulder with your palm?
I was thinking about
Like, can
today.
your palm touch
What the
your
hell
shoulder?
have my
Okay.
commands?
Some people can't do that like straight out, like with your arms straight out.
I was getting ready earlier. Brushed my teeth this morning
Some people
and it
can't
dawned
touch
on me. I was like,
Wait, what are we doing?
your palm to your shoulder
what are my
with your arms
commands?
straight out.
what are my commands in my Twitch channel?
Some people can't touch,
There's
like
so
Andy,
many
he can't touch his palms to his shoulders, yeah.
You're just too buff.
His guns are just too big.
Ridiculous.
Touching your palms to your shoulders with your arms straight out.
Oh, Robert's turned
Touch
off.
the back of your head.
Robert was for a specific case.
My palms.
I went to go use her arm
my
and I was like,
palm-
no, I
Yeah,
can't.
you can actually clasp and grab.
Sounds like my
So,
kind of woman.
I can do that with my two arms
my
too.
palms-
Yeah, I can reach like this on my
Does she
arms
have them
by
on
doing that on
YouTube?
both
'Cause I might
sides.
have listened on YouTube, but I know I've heard at least one episode. We've
Don't
got
hurt yourself though. That's what
Dude.
you don't want to do.
I forgot. I honestly.
She
I
has
forgot
a
about Shyamalan
command that if you
Harris,
put
too.
exclamation Ocean Man, the fucking lyrics, she typed out the lyrics of Ween's Ocean Man and it pops up.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Liners? Make it work.
That's funny.
Make it work. I feel like there's
Can you
other
touch your palms to your
for the
shoulders?
hug.
With your arms straight out though, that's the trick. It's got to be with your arms out, because some people can't.
I handled the whole palm. We used to make my sister whenever she was little, because you know kids are all
Got you back.
disproportionate.
It
They're
looks
both
like your
so
palms
big.
aren't touching.
Like
But
we
then
can
it
reach
falls.
over
I
and you
feel
can
like
touch
they
your
are.
ear
So I got
over
it.
your head. And we used
I
to make
do.
Jordan do that.
I do
'cause she
absolutely.
couldn't reach and her
Ocean
hand
Man
would only
taking
go
by
like
the
here.
hand,
She's
me
like,
to the sand.
she's like a little kid. But it just illustrated how short their arms were compared to where their head was, because they can't reach. I was like, that's
Oh,
funny.
man.
That You're broken.
Ooh, excuse me, Kristen.
Growing. I mean, growing.
Yeah, you're growing. You're
At
not
number
broken. You're growing.
15, we've got Okay Chris Angel,
Wait until you're 12.
which is
That'll
my
be great.
favorite
Whose
way to
birthday
offend
is it? Is it her
somebody.
birthday?
No, it's somebody's birthday.
Okay Chris
Just for
Angel.
Zoe.
Forgot who.
Jimbo farted.
Yeah, she
Jimbo's
does. She
ghost
totally does.
farted, I guess, right?
Oh, somebody ghost party?
Jimbo's ghost farted.
Dude, that goes right along with what Andy and I were talking about earlier.
Who's Josh doing?
Oh yeah, ghost farts.
He was gonna crop
Hold
dust you
on.
guys. We were talking about techniques of how to crop dust you guys.
Oh,
That's really funny.
While we were streaming? Oh, fuck, no, you would have got punched right in the face.
Dude,
oh,
that
hold on,
shit's
Roxy's
really
calling.
I told him if it happened, I didn't know anything.
yeah,
about the
but
plan.
Hello?
would you have got up and punched me right in
Oh,
the face?
fuck off, we are? Oh my
We're still
god,
streaming,
I
we're
didn't
talking.
hit.
Oh, Harry Styles.